quick bit, Jordan. This is insane.
Well, hey there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to the third day of the Path to Masters playoffs. We've had 4 so far, best of 5s that have been incredibly exciting. Last night we ended ourselves with a nice 3-0, but you know what? Talking about it only does so much. We'll show you the bracket, see what we've done so far, where we're going for the rest of the tournament. So, day 1 we covered a 3-1 win for the Gladiators and a 3-1 win for the Hounds. Yesterday we covered a 3-1 win for the Kings and a 3-0 win for the Leviathans. Today we're jumping down to the losers bracket. We're going to be watching the Hounds and the Ferrymen. And then a little later on in the afternoon we're going to be watching the Gladiators and the Dragons take each other on. Again, all of these are best of 5s. Tomorrow we'll find out our 3rd, 4th seed. And then, of course, the winner between Leviathans and Kings will be the first seed coming out of this tournament. And doing their best to avoid the Ravens and the Warriors at Masters for as long as they possibly can. 2 teams, one that had a pretty dominating phase, and then the other one that had an absolutely dominating phase. And so, of course, those 2 teams still waiting to figure out where these 6 will end up. And then on top of those 6, what SEC teams that they're going to be playing up against, and then how that matchup's going to work. Loser of this tournament has a little bit more work to do, right? So actually these matches matter when you look at Masters. It gives you a little more, essentially, more sets you got to play, more people you got to beat, and not on only that, you're going to, if you lose here and the next one, immediately, Mifflin, find yourself against the Ravens or the Warriors if you make it past the SEC teams, which is already something that we've seen, especially at the last few events, is not the easiest thing in the world.
No, it isn't. But, Corey, you keep opening me to opportunities to make myself look the fool. Last year, I said, you know, the SEC just doesn't feel like they can compete with the SPL.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put myself in the line of fire once more. I feel like the SEC might just be blanket weaker this year than it was last year. You know, a lot of those guys make the step up to the SPL, so I'm not so certain. There's a major threat there. Go ahead and clip it and ship it.
Yeah.
I know you guys in Twitch chat. The second
that.
the SEC beats an SPL team, I'm gonna get blasted on Reddit and Twitter.
When they win Masters.
I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, look, the way that teams have been playing so far this year, it's been difficult to be good. I think that's like and not even. That's a bad way to say it. It's been difficult to be untouchable, which is why what the Warriors have done is just remarkable, because that's absolutely insane. A lot of other teams, especially if you look over towards the Order division, were having week in, week out fights for where they look incredible.
Yep.
Fights where things just don't go their way. And then, of course, coming into today, it has been a very interesting dynamic between the 2 teams we're about to watch, because they had to fight each other for seeding at the end of the phase, and then they had to do a tiebreaker. And now they're here to do it again. But the last 3 games they played went the way of the Ferrymen. And, of course, for the thoughts on this matchup, maybe thoughts on how it's gone and how it's going to go, we've got Aurora standing by for an interview.
Yeah, that's right. I got Aurora's support for the Ferrymen here with me. Aurora, you've had this matchup a couple times so far during the phase against the Eldritch Hounds. I believe they took you down the first time that y'all met off. Very end of the phase, you guys got them, won the tiebreaker match. Now that you got quite a bit of data on this team, how do you kind of feel about this best of 5 matchup against them?
We're feeling good going into them. They've been playing really well. We had a not so great of a day yesterday, but we learned from it, and we're just going to bounce back and do really well today.
And now kind of having some of the data up against the Eldritch Hounds, kind of seeing the play styles they develop, maybe some of the God picks, does it make it a little bit easier now that you've had some time up against them to try and draft up them and maybe try and play against them on field as well?
Yeah, they've been playing a bunch of different picks. I think they brought out the Odin yesterday against the Kings, and yeah, they've just been playing what they like to play, so we're ready.
So at least as far as the support role is concerned, we've still been seeing a lot of the mage support. Some of the Guardians have kind of been popping back through. Maybe what's kind of your take right now in the support role, maybe on the strength of some of the mage supports or the strength of some of the current Guardians in there? What's your kind of thoughts on the current support meta?
I think the support meta is good. The mages are really good. I guess they don't always have the best showing in SPL, but I think they're a lot better than what they've shown so far.
Right.
At least if you're playing ranked and stuff, like a lot of people have not been happy playing against Hell and Afro and all those types of mages. And then the Guardians, there's a lot of good Guardians. There's like, I feel like the role is in a really good spot because there's so many different characters you can play, and you can make it more, even if like for instance, like Afro or whatever is not working for everybody else in the SPL, like teams like the Warriors have made it work, and then like there's other picks like just a bunch of Guardians that you could play. So I don't know. It's in a really good spot. I think you can really go anywhere you want with it. There's like 3 or 4 good mage supports. There's a ton of Guardians. There's a couple Warriors as well. So it's fun. It's good.
Yeah, feels like it's in a good spot. Well, Roar, I'm going to wish you the best of luck in your setup against the Hounds. I'll let you get back with the team, and we'll throw it over to the desk.
Thank you.
Sometimes you get, I guess, a good position where you have 3 to 4 mages you can play. It says, I'd say 3 to 4 Guardians that you're going to, and then a whole slew that we just aren't seeing that, who knows, maybe they end up working out pretty well. I think that what we're going to see from the Styx Ferrymen has been eclectic, is the way to describe it, right? Aurora is willing to play, I mean, the Ganesh is something that has actually been banned against them because it's looked really good. Cyclone's got a lot of flexibility. Paul is Paul. I don't think we need to go too much further into that. The biggest point of contention, I think, in conversation has almost always been in the jungle, has been Cyno. And it's just because Cyno sometimes likes things that don't always end up looking great. And whether or not it ends up, you know, if it worked out well in scrims for them or it's worked out well in practice or wherever they've been kind of looking at it, sometimes we only get to see the small window of maybe how many, like the Osiris jungle, actually, the last few times they played, he's been going to that a lot. We'll see maybe how that works out for them. They played the Ferrymen, sorry, they played the Gladiators on Friday, fall down 3-1 there. But the last 3 games they played against their opponents here, the Hounds, they have won. Now, the Hounds came into this Mifflin. They were technically a higher seed, I think, going into the last week, but not by a lot. Then they get 2-0'd by the Ferrymen, which causes a lot of disruption because all of a sudden you had the same plus-minus, same head-to-head, and the same set score tie. They had to come in, for those of you who didn't watch, a week ago, about 9 days ago now, to play a best-of-1, figure out who's going to be 3rd seed, who's going to be 4th seed, which determined, do you play the Gladiators, do you play the Dragons? The Hounds ended up winning their matchup, but losing to the Kings just yesterday after Game 1, they looked good. Games 2 and 3, they'd probably like to forget about. And admittedly, Mifflin Game 4, they'd probably like to forget about.
Yeah, it's a tough run there up against the Camelot Kings on a resurgent bit of gameplay there. But the Eldritch Hounds themselves have inspired confidence in me. I think they play similarly to the Gilded Gladiators, just a bit more consistently. Benny Q in particular, the guy on your screen right now, has been having a phenomenal run as of recent. Very active out of the mid lane. He is the self-reported highest playmaker mid laner in the league, and he does burn a ton of relics. It's one of the gameplay styles that I think a few players that are really all in on, which is, I might not kill you, but I'll get your Aegis, I'll get your beads, and if I get those, I'll kill you next time. Benny Q, all in on that mentality. I'm glad that you brought up Cyno because I think the jungle matchup here also going to be very important.
Yeah.
Oath on the other side has had a phenomenal rookie year here in the SPL. Not an easy role to break into the SPL with, one of the highest impact and one that is, for my money, got the highest skill floor and ceiling in Smite. Oath has played a plethora of picks in his last 6. We've got no repeating selections. Will go down the mage tree if he needs to. Has got full grasp with the assassin column as well. So maybe a polar opposite to Cyno in that Oath is going to play what he thinks is good and what everyone else thinks is good, and he's going to play it very well. And then Cyno is going to play what Cyno wants to play on the other end. But recently for Cyno, got to give credit where it's due, has moved away from the Nike jungles, the Surtur jungles, and instead has leaned a little bit more so into that standard assassin pool. Najan, Thor, quickly adding themselves to his god pool.
I think there's something that needs to be said about Coast, right? Phenomenal player, has looked incredible throughout this entire year. I mean, hell, he looked incredible last year to the point where when he wasn't on one of the original 6 SPL teams that were announced, there were some people like, okay, look, the role's good. Not having Coast is a mistake for somebody here. And I think he's kind of proved that in a lot of these instances. It's been a huge benefit to have him here for the Hounds. I also had to give a shout out to the guy sitting closest to the camera there. And that is Ducky, Because Ducky in the past SPL years, there's no better way to say it. His team has gravitated towards the bottom. His win-loss has been abysmal. This year feels like it's been a very, very good change for him. Just being able to finally pick up more wins. Admittedly, it's not like he's first seed and running away, but considering what we've seen out of him the last few times he's been in the SPL, finally getting on a team that seems to mesh well with him and his style is huge.
Yeah, and even had the opportunity to speak with Ducky a few times. He had expressed the idea that he is flourishing in an environment where his team looks up to him or looks to him for maybe feedback or shot calling as one of the primary veterans of this team. I think that is making a good deal of sense for how they treat Ducky and his role on the field as well as off the field. Worth noting, in the past when we talked about Ducky, it was always, well, you know, his teams aren't winning, but Ducky's always looked good, right? And that was the conversation about the Valkyries. It was the conversation around Obey was, look, there's a team that is struggling, but the consistency is not lacking in the Soul Lane.
Yeah.
And as years started to go on, that leeway and that favoritism that the fans and the analysts were giving to Ducky started to wear thin because the results never followed. The results are finally starting to follow. This team has stepped up. Ducky looks great in the qualification event, has looked great in the regular season, has continued to play well here again. Very diverse god pool for Ducky, Guan Yu, Vamana, Odin, and Thor within his last 6. One of the few people playing the Odin right now, loves going towards some of the squishier builds on all of his gods. Top to bottom, seems like Ducky is just going to build Transcendence if he's on a physical and loves to play around that pressure that affords him. So I'm excited to see how the Hounds elect to play around that.
Same. I'm excited just to see how they play today, especially after how last game went for them. See what kind of turnaround they might be bringing. So we get into picks and bans for game number 1 here. Ferrymen going to be the first pick squad. Now, Hachiman has been non-banned, but first pick in a lot of games. I mean, and it is absolutely wild how often he has been. Actually, and I did lie to you there, because there is exactly one Hachi ban that immediately stood out right after that, and it was the Hounds up against the Dragons in Game 2 on Thursday.
Time flies.
Time flies. Well, I'm used to doing only SBL on the weekends. The fact that it was 2 days ago is just like, oh, then today must be Sunday. And so we'll see what kind of bans they go for. Ferrymen did value Hachi 3 games in a row as first pick when they played the Gladiators. And so I'm going to keep an eye on that. They've banned out Aphrodite, which is actually a little surprising. Hound's win rate with that has been abysmal. But they banned it out. They ban out the Emoja, which Quig's Emoja has been really solid. And then Marty alongside that. Other side, some of the more standard make sense bans. The Vamana, the Hell, the TBD.
Yeah, the only ban I was keeping my eyes on going into this first phase was Vamana, because I needed to see it, unless somehow the Hounds were able to manipulate picks and bans to such an extent that they would have gotten the Vamana for themselves. Otherwise, I think it needs to be removed from the playfield. Baskin is going to diff entire teams with Vamana. Yes. Do not give him this pick. We've seen what he can do. Legitimately, whole team suffering. I think he rotates into his team fight. Best KD on his team is 0-1. He's looking like a 10-1 Vamana at the end of that game and absolutely dominating. So make sure he's allowed to pick that. Probably the first key to success here for the Eldritch Hounds. But in doing so and in banning out the Vamana, they have left available that Hachiman for the Styx Ferryman. Very strong boxer. I'm going to keep saying it every time because it seems like he's going to get first picked every time. Great in lane. Transitions relatively well into the late game. Diversifies his builds. Can go crit. Can also go for the new kin size yellow numbers build. I say new, but it's something we've seen throughout the last couple of years. Just something that's come back recently. The Odysseus bow has been finding a whole lot of value. Picks and bans are zooming, Gore. Can't even hone in on one of these picks. These guys clearly have done their homework going back and forth.
I do want to ask you, look, there's a lot of good to talk about. In fact, I'll catch them up real fast because you had mentioned the Horus. Hercules, Baba Yaga locked in for the Ferrymen. Merlin just now locked in for the Hounds. There's probably a conversation we can have about this Baba Yaga because Paul looked really good when he was able to get it on Thursday. Looked really bad when he had to play against it. Admittedly, one of those was an E-Shell game that just did not go his way. And then the Agni game didn't quite go his way. But Mifflin, I wouldn't be doing my job well if I did not ask you about the Horus for the Hounds. And more specifically, the several opportunities, it feels like, yesterday to Horus ult into the Titan room, maybe try to get something done, whether they were too timid to try, whether it just wasn't a good idea. It feels like there was an opening for them to win a game that a Horus ult could have led to, and it just didn't get used the way that maybe people wanted it to.
Yeah, so for those of you that didn't catch the previous Hounds set, they had essentially had the enemy Titan down to about 20% HP, all 3 Phoenixes down. Casters are assuming that Horus ult was just going to be delivered to the Titan room, and they just go for the full all-in. Never really happened. It was 10 minutes of knocking on the door without actually pulling that trigger. And I sat down with the Eldritch Hounds after that and said, guys, what's going on? What was the call? Why aren't you going for this play? And looking around, and I can't speak from personal experience, this is me only from movies, they looked shell-shocked. They looked like they had just come out of battle in a great war. These guys are all wide-eyed like saucers. And Benny was the first one to pipe up, and I legitimately, true story, took him 30 seconds to respond to that question. We were just all sitting there in silence. He says, yeah, man, the call was to walk through the door, so we walked through the doors. And that's essentially the entirety of that conversation. Yeah. I imagine there will be adaptation on field, and should the opportunity arise again, the Eldritch Hounds likely will take it. It's just
it's
in the heat of the moment.
Back to if you're stressed about that kind of thing. Right?
I don't think so.
No shot is this happening, man. Who cares about the Horus anymore? We got the ESET jungle.
All right, Sino. Okay. ESET jungle. We've seen him play Baba Yaga jungle in the past as well.
Has he?
I think taking Baba Yaga away from Paul is
any
just
5
bad.
of those gods could be going into the jungle for
Hercules is probably the best jungler in this comp, if we're being honest. Look, I've also talked to Sino about the ESET a whole lot, because when he came into the league, he had tried to make it work a few times and said, look, it was dominating the SEC. And I said, well, Sino, you're a world champion MVP. You're gonna dominate in the SMITE Challenger circuit, man. Look, when you take into account what ESET has, all things line up to be a pretty decent jungler. You've got confirmable CC, a giant no-play zone, clean burst damage as well. It's just that scaling that I think is going to be a concern for ESET. In the early game, no problems. Levels 1 through 5, no problems. You're going to have a little bit less clear than a standard assassin on the other side, but it's the ability to actually channel Wing Gust that I think makes ESET goes down a few tiers. It is so difficult to actually hit every single tick of Wing Gust. And I'm not saying it's difficult to aim. It's difficult to get it off. It is a long channeled ability, and there is so much CC in Smite. You got to think Ao Kuang's going to ult it if it's going to be the difference maker between saving his life or getting away. Horus hits Fracture, or Guan Yu can stun it as well. Heimdall can use his own ultimate to cancel it out. There are plenty of counterplay for it, and if that's the case, all of your damage is coming from that Spirit Bomb. And that is one of the more difficult abilities to land at max range. Of course, Spirit Bomb getting additional damage the more distance that it travels, so barrel stuffing it, although good, maybe not the ideal damage source.
And I know you were trying to be, I want to say kind and give some leeway, but it is the ESET in the jungle. I still stand by the fact that Circle of Protection, and very specifically when it's not built as like a support, because when we've seen her in support, it doesn't do as much damage. If you're going damage and you've got Circle of Protection, it's still one of, if not the best secure.
Bar none, best secure in the game. There's nothing that beats it.
So you've got that going for you, which has honestly been lacking a lot lately in some of these comps. I mean, even looking at this, like Baba Yaga and Merlin are not known for their objective secure, and you almost always are looking for your mages there. So they get that. But against an Ao Kuang, I see the ESET, I think team fight. I see Ao Kuang, I think hyper carry. And it's very different styles of play. And I guess it was very appropriate for you to mention the junglers coming into this set.
It really is interesting. Look, I'm in a unique position to talk about ESET because last I had played competitively, ESET was the god. It was either top picked or top banned every single game. So the game plan with ESET back then was run down objectives. Get to the Gold Fury, kill it on spawn. Get to the Pyromancer, kill it on spawn. Back then it was a portal demon, but essentially the same thing. Because of how strong her confirmation and teamfight is around those objectives. Of course, it's going to have immense burst, so confirming the objective is good, but if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, is it doing more damage than the Spirit of the Nine Winds or maybe a Searing Pain? At times, yes, but at other times, maybe not. It's the speed with which you can confirm, as well as the no-play zone and giving your team additional protections in that zone. You can tank up the Gold Fury, take no damage, immediately heal all the damage you had just taken, and then confirm the objective and simultaneously be ready to disengage because you're full healed, or immediately re-engage if the enemy team tries to fight you and make you pay for that objective. That is the strength of ESET. She grabs the objective and keeps her team healthy very quickly, and it's just an instant burst of damage, man. You're not going to outspeed that ESET ult.
Well, the Hounds are coming off an unfortunate loss against the Kings yesterday. The Ferrymen are playing the Ferrymen. We'll find out what the results are of Game 1 as we jump down into it with J-Mac and Trelly.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much, Gore and Myth on the desk. That's right. It's J-Mac, it's Trelly, and Doug here in game number 1 between the Ferrymen and the Eldritch Hounds. And in this double elimination bracket, Trelly, this is an elimination matchup for these two. One of them will get to move on to continue playing a little bit later tomorrow. The other one, well, they're going to end here today. And so far, it seems the fans are favoring a little bit towards the Hounds, but we get a nice little treat, Charlie. We get the ESET jungle. It's been a while since we've seen it from Sino, from his days playing into the SCC. Constantly banned away from him after he had kind of gone on a tear with that kind of a pick. Pivoted over to things like Scotty in the SCC, but since coming into the SPL, hasn't really had an opportunity to show that to us. It's been a little bit more of kind of the oddball assassin or warrior style picks.
Yeah, we have not seen it to great success in the Pro League, but I think that in the right matchup, it can flourish. It all depends on if you're playing that style that Myth was talking about, where you're just focusing objectives. We see Paul on the Baba. That does mean late game is more so where they're aiming towards, the Ferryman that is. And I'm thinking, 4 mages in the mid lane. I don't imagine too much scrapping happens just because, of course, they want to scale, right? They don't come out the gate level 2 that strong. Of course, ESET has a ton of CC, especially if Sino's able to land that Spirit Ball. But I'm not thinking Benny Q and Oath want to step too far forward. They just want to get their farm and continue, try and hit level 5. I don't know. I don't know how this ESET jungle is going to play, just because it's not easy to just force out these objectives anymore. That used to be the call, but it's a lot harder to make work, especially if you're losing the fight after. If you drop all of your ultimates just to burn the objective, then usually you're not looking to stick around and fight, and ESET's not very mobile. And Sino did not build beats. He's got Blink, so he is going to be having to worry about some of this CC that Oath, Ducky, and of course Quig and Coast can provide.
Yeah, I think specifically Oath, his direct matchup in the jungle might be his biggest worry. As mentioned on the desk, one easy way to cancel out the Wingus is to use that Ao Kuang ultimate. And now that you mentioned no beads, that could be that much easier of a target, at least for Oath to now go towards. And the last time that Oath got this pick, he kind of farmed. He went 10-2 in that game. Started off on a 4-0 tear, died, immediately respawned back in, went to another fight, picked up a triple kill after that one. So Oath no stranger to a pick like this. Ao Kuang has made it work very well over the course of his competitive career. So seeing the mage jungles, let's see which one prevails on top for game number 1. Then Aurora back onto this Ganesh. This is something that he jumped into, at least on the start of the phase, and I asked him, I said, what's up with the Ganesh? And he said, it's the year of the elephant, man. I'm going to be playing a lot of Ganesh, so get used to it. But it's been working out really well for him so far.
I suppose. I mean, as well as a Ganesh can work out. I'm not the biggest fan. I think that, he's annoying in certain matchups, which is the reason you pick him. For junglers getting to the back line, and he's get silenced out. The Dharmic Pillars are a great initiation or a retreat call. It's a good area to say, hey, don't walk through this. We're going to leave, or we're trying to chase you down. But you just don't do a lot of damage, and that's what I always say. When you play support, you usually want to force relics, and Ganesh, it's pretty difficult to force relics. So we'll have to see if the Eldritch Hounds are trying to focus out Aurora. That's my reasoning, mainly. If Oath decides to go over to duo lane and say, hey, this Ganesh has no beads, I want to get him in Threshold and get a free execute, certainly could be a possibility. So we'll have to watch out how passive the Styx Ferrymen decide to play in that duo lane. They have been staying pretty far backwards, as actually Quig walks forward, takes a bit of damage. They try to grab the purple buff before Quig's able to pull it away, but it looks like Quig does get his hands on it. Yeah, Coach is going to have to help out unless this one gets underneath the tower. Quig's doing a great job to make sure they can't just pull it under tower for free.
All to battle, and it does go to the Eldritch Hounds. Quig and Coast teaming up to make sure to secure that buff, while also simultaneously pushing minions under the tower, keeping some XP away from Cyclone Spin and Aurora at the same time. Not just from the camp, but from that minion wave too. The Eldritch Hounds give themselves that small win on the left side of the map, and then they can always do just this, fall back, grab their own purple buff, grab that chest camp, and get themselves that much closer to the level 5 mark, because Quig had already hit level 4 before Aurora and Cyclone had that opportunity to do so, and now with Coast at level 5, still got to burn through some relics if you want to get some value with that ultimate, but much easier to do so now with an ultimate.
I would say it's impossible to do without an ultimate.
Nah, he's got the knockout.
Oh, that's true.
He's got the one.
All right, you're right. You can force something out. But I'm wondering when Cyno decides to get active. That's where my eyes are on, right?
Right.
This E set with Blink, I just want to see the gank, because usually it's you drop the circle protection, Spirit Ball in to get that stun, confirm more charge, and then you go for the burst damage while you're channeling Wind Gust. If you're looking towards solo lane, Baskin on the Hercules can provide some of that setup. But it looks like Oath at the moment is sitting around solo lane while Cyno's going back to base. Hercules is not going to be an easy target. And Oath knows there's wards down. He has not stepped on either of them. He's just been sitting here now. He actually goes invis to pass over the ward, but decides against the gank. Yeah, Baskin is just too tanky at the moment. If Ducky wanted to ult, he doesn't have that Transcendence, so he doesn't do too much damage. He wouldn't be able to force out a lot. And it looks like the Hounds are going to play the passive route this time around. But I do love that call. Going invis to juke the ward, see if Baskin driving strikes or ults aggressively, then goes in for an opportunity for a gank. Cyno, he just walks in. He doesn't care about the vision. He wants the cooldown buff. He wants a possibility to go for blue. It doesn't seem like Ducky would be able to provide too much help, though. Again, the Tainted Steel and a Transcendence start means that Baskin's just going to get the better end of these trades, at least for now.
Yeah, I think kind of maybe even piggybacking off the discussion of Cyno there, going for this Blink first, actually maxing Spirit Ball as opposed to the Wind Gust for at least that first little bit. Wind Gust does quite a bit of damage to clear things out, but again, kind of talking about the Relic, you mentioned the Blink versus something like the Beads going up against Oath, Ducky, what these guys can do, Quig as well. I always like to play the game, but pre-level 12, and even sometimes even if we go beyond level 12, is how many times did Cyno use the Blink? How active does he get with a Relic like that one? It's probably a discussion that a lot of people have, at least whenever your mages typically go this and you want to be more safe. So I'll be keeping my eyes on the Relic for how many times it gets used before he gets Beads, assuming that he gets Beads in his second Relic going up against Oath there, because trying to fight up against an Ao Kuang with no CC immunity, no easy way to get away from that execute, just feels like a nightmare sometimes.
Definitely can be. If Oath's on point, he can just focus you out entirely. I think it's hard for Ao Kuang to get near E-set, though. If you're using that Water Illusion to juke the Spirit Ball or the Silence to Dispel Magic, you're probably getting hit by that Circle of Protection, which is unideal for an Ao Kuang this early on. You don't really have the burst damage to say, hey, I'm going to eat this full ult, and I'll still be able to return good damage. So that's probably why we see the Eldritch Hounds' aggression at a halted pace for now. It does seem like the Styx Ferrymen haven't cared too much about it, though. This has been a quiet start to this matchup. Probably because, you highlighted early on, elimination on the line. You don't want to get out of this tournament. And I think momentum plays a big role. You get a early win here in game number 1. That can translate into keeping your spirits high, and of course translating that into other wins as the tournament continues. But because of that, a Restoring Wand here for Cyno. There's a few items he could build into, but it looks like he's going to go for a little bit tankier of a route. Not full damage. He wants to get a little bit of utility. And the Eldritch Hound said, hey, you may have the E set, but we've got good burn. We're going to start this up. And now Aurora has dashed in, dropped the Dharma Pillars. And that's what I'm talking about. Aurora might have been caught out there, but he drops the ult, says, hey, don't chase me. And the Eldritch Hounds can't do it.
I think this goes back to something that was mentioned on this by Viv, was kind of the old style and mentality around E-set when she was played as a damage character was. Once the objectives are up, you beeline too. You go straight to a Gold Fury, straight to, well, what would now be a Pyromancer. Maybe not rushing Fire Giants anytime, but still having such great confirmation and such high damage for Cyno. Use that Blink to get over towards the blue buff, force the ultimate out of Ducky, and we'll be able to go for a blue buff invade at the same time there. So a big win for Cyno, not only getting the buff, but also stripping the safety away from Ducky. Could be going for a little bit more. Spirit Ball does connect, but not enough follow-up after. Baskin a little too far away to capitalize.
And the Styx Ferrymen taking out 4 Bastions since we've been watching. So the mid tier 1 and right side tier 1, both going to be losing a little bit of extra protection and gold. It's pretty much just Cyclone Spin that hasn't been able to get lane pressure. Coast and Quig have constantly been over here trying to invade this purple buff. That's came through a couple times. Aurora would love to go in for a confirm attempt, but it seems like that's not going to happen. Once again, Porsche Coast gets the better end of that purple buff. But just pressure throughout, besides in this duo lane, which means Sino, using the blink, forcing out pressure over on right. A good call. Ducky's not going to have magical defense for a while. Goes Transcendence into what you can only assume is the regrowth. And once that comes through, you're going to have to watch out. BennyQ gets lifted up, and Paul just backs. He's like, I don't really care about poke. Now, BennyQ flickers forward, and maybe try to start a little bit something, but Oath is more focused on Wandering Harpies. Again, quiet. Maybe objectives are the call. Once they start spawning through, the Pyromancer that is, we'll see some more scrapping. But it's been a lot of backing up and not a lot of fighting.
Dual lane skirmish. Coast down to about half HP. He'll Bifrost out. Cyclone Spin also down about 40% of his health for the time being. Both of them able to resustain thanks to the help of the Death Toll and the devs. Ultimate from Aurora drop down, but it only catches out Quig, and he's able to immediately use that healing surge to get right back to Coast. But I took a look over at Paul, and that was a very fast Prophetic Cloak start. Typically, we've been seeing it third item for a lot of the players that have been going it, but Paul picks up immediately second item, can already start getting some of those fast stacks online for it, already sitting at 5 just from his poke, but also from the passive of that house, giving over some of the stacks towards that item. And it just seems to have really become a core item for Baba Yaga.
I think it's a bean-making factory. It's not a house anymore. When you're using
all you said is it's a bean making factory. I'm like, what are you talking about? Prophetic Cloak makes beans now?
You said you got passive stacks from the house. That's not a house. That's a bean making factory.
Also, I never realized her basic attack, she throws a bean.
I mean, yeah.
I never noticed that until I actually got the in-person perspective of it.
It's great that we get to see the game through Paul's eyes here as he just chucks beans at his opponents.
What were our devs cooking on this one?
They were cooking beans. What do you mean? We can see what they're cooking.
Well, they cooked up a monstrosity, let me tell you.
They have. And
might want
because
to put it back in the oven a little longer.
Yeah, my guess is Paul said, hey, I've noticed we're 11 minutes into this game. 12-ish should come on the way, and we haven't fought at all. Because of that, why not just go Prophetic Cloak? I'll just get stacked up sooner. You don't need my DPS. Ducky is going to have to horse out, but again, no real chase down potential. If Sino's not popping that ult, probably not looking for a kill. Blink already used, so Tier 1 tower seems to be the call. And Oath's nearby, but he's going to let that one go. Ao Kuang does not have the best clear. He has to get real close to the wave to try and be able to clear that out. And it looks like Sino may be the target here. Quig and BennyQ making the rotation.
Oh, Sino drops a big ultimate. Oath's going to go down to the boulder. No, he's able to flicker away with his first ability, able to get out, but Sino does not. BennyQ strikes up first blood, and Oath squeaks by with less than 100 HP to live at the end of it. Great combo by Sino and Baskin, but just not fast enough on the trigger for Baskin.
Yep, that water illusion is quick. And unfortunately was just not able to get the boulder down in time. And it was a great combo. I mean, there's no beads. Knocked him up, punched him, all while in the circle of protection, but needed that little bit extra. And again, that was a 4v2. Trying to win that scrap would have been difficult as is, and they almost pulled it off. But first blood going the way of BennyQ, and now the other towns get to try and set up for the Pyromancer. Aurora has Dharmic Pillars. He would love to drop them, try and go for a steal. But here comes the rest of the Ferrymen.
Eldritch Hounds do get the objective, but can Quig get out? Yes, he's got that surge to get himself through. Ducky back on the horse, running from 4 yet again. And he'll be able to escape. All 5 of the 6 Ferrymen standing by in mid. Won't be able to benefit from the Runic Bomb because that was secured by the Hounds, but can maybe instead work on a Tier 1 tower with the 4 full stack Cyclone Spin included here. Not much that BennyQ can do to stop this T1.
Nope. Aurora walks up with a silence, says, nope, you're not allowed to spam abilities, you're not allowed to clear this wave. And that's going to be the end of the Tier 1 tower. But the Ferrymen are heading over to Gold Fury. They have that circle of protection. It is back up, and they would love to try and go for a pull here. The Hounds are nearby. They know if Sino drops that ult, there's going to be a very small chance of being able to confirm it.
Baskin throws the boulder because he sees the circle from Quig crashing down. But it's only Quig who drop ships in, and maybe it's a good thing it was. Instead, it's a turn and burn back to Aurora. Circle protection is up. Sino hasn't used it yet. Instead, it's Aurora who goes down first in the fight. Now Ducky down to half HP. A dash in by Cyclone only hits 1 with the ultimate. And 4 of the Ferrymen still charging 4. They don't need a roar. They've still got plenty of damage.
Yeah, the Ferrymen should be getting a free Gold Fury now. Again, the circle of protection is going to be an easy confirmation. The Hound siege forward. I don't know if they're looking for a steal attempt or the fight after, but look at the low health bars. It's not going to be easy to try and contest.
Paul's going to go up in the house to try and zone with some damage. The Ferrymen get the Gold Fury thanks to the confirmation from Sino's ultimate, and that's exactly what the desk was talking about. Not many gods able to do over 500 damage this early in the game with only 1, maybe 2 items in. Sino holds on to some of the best secure on the map, and that's the Styx Ferrymen, the first Gold Fury of the game.
Yep, so staying relatively even here because the Hounds got the early aggression. They got that first blood. They grabbed the Pyro. The Styx Ferrymen answered back and were able to grab that Fury for themselves. It does seem like Oath's having some trouble without beads, and I think this is the reason that Aurora picked that Ganesh pick. You know, trying to stop the backline or the tanks from diving your carries. That silence really does start to add up. You can't cast your abilities. You can't get an execute off. And I think that was the plan. Oath said, hey, Aurora dashed in early. Maybe I could go for this execute. Maybe I could get a free kill and fly away. Not going to happen. Now goes back to base and picks up the beads. That will be a big difference maker. But so far, have not seen a lot out of Oath. He's been relatively dealt with just because of how much CC the Styx Ferrymen have on their side.
Yeah, it's been tough for Oath to find really any target. It feels like every time he wants to go over to the right lane to help out Ducky, Sino's already 2 steps ahead of him. It will be a last gas picked up by Sino. He's going to be getting a little bit of benefit from that item for himself. One of the newer items brought into the game in some of the more recent patches. I believe one of the first time, not the first time, but one of the first times we'll be seeing it maybe used in a damage style setting. We've been seeing it a little bit as far as the supports have been concerned. Been seeing it a little bit on things like Aphrodite or Hell, but haven't seen it just yet on someone like an Eset. We'll see how Sino can make use of this item.
Probably because this is one of the first times we've seen Eset.
That's fair.
Just not a lot of playtime. Sino has been working up this one for a while again. We talked about it in the SCC, but has brought a little bit of value so far. Confirming a Gold Fury. Sino's 1-1. With a low kill game, I think that says a lot. It's only 1 to 2 throughout, and a relatively even kill-wise. But because these objectives are down, Pyromancer is where the next real scrap should begin. The Eldritch Hounds would love to make a pull for it. They already have a Runic Bomb here for Quig, but it's just not difficult. It's not easy to try and go for a pull when Baskin is here. I think that this Hercules has been an issue. He stands at the forefront of the fight. He's extremely tanky with the start that he's went here. With the regrowth, the Amulet of the Stronghold, and of course Midgardian Mail. This Hercules, I mean, your best option is to execute him, of course. He doesn't have beads. But even getting him into that threshold is going to be difficult.
Especially, as you mentioned, with that Midgardian now slowing down Oath, making it even harder for Oath to maybe keep chase on the basket at this point. It's already tough to stick to anybody because Aurora was standing by. Silence, Knock Up, Dharmic Pillar all there. Well, to see if Oath can get anything going, or maybe the Hounds can try and pull this one back through because the 6 Ferrymen are just taking away objective after objective now. Pyromancer for the Styx Ferrymen on that confirmation. No ultimate from Sino necessary, just one from Baskin to throw out and secure there. Eldritch Hounds, a group up in mid, including Coast this time through. Oath now on the way, but his full stack up. Baskin misses the knock-up onto Ducky. Instead, it's Aurora getting poked out by Beneque. Very healthy are the Eldritch Hounds, except for Quig, who steps into the tower line and just gets blown up by the damage of the Ferryman. Paul surging forward with the ultimate. Beneque taking a little bit of that damage. And Baskin finds the pickup onto Benny, gets the beads away from him, and Dharmic Pillar deals a lot of damage to him at the same time. Beneque forced back to base, but still holding on to the Aegis.
Oh man, Baskin started going to the right, and I thought we were going to see a 17-minute Fire Giant pull, but Primal Fury is spawning in, so I'm guessing that's where the Styx Ferrymen would rather put their pressure. Quig just steps up way too far. I thought it looked like Paul rolled a good roll and got the silence, and he was stuck, but it wasn't. It was the movement speed one on Paul's magic, and that's not enough to lock down Quig. I think he just got CC'd regardless. Because of that, you lose your Horus, you got to retreat. Beneque loses his beats because of a great pull-in from Baskin. But why is the team so split? I guess the Ferrymen...
I think Paul's wondering that.
I think the Ferrymen thought, wait, what if they're sneaking Fire Giant right now? We have to walk over. And Paul's like, guys, they're not doing fire. Just come over and hit the freaking Primal Fury, man. He's just sitting around. He doesn't want to tank it up, though. Even with the Evolved Prophetic Cloak, Baba does not like tanking up objectives.
No, certainly not. Much tankier people on his team to do that for him. But he will throw out a decent bit of poke damage. Double potion plus that first ability. Gonna slam through and become a nuisance there, but Primal Fury pulled. Immediately reset by the Ferrymen. So we have another 10-man group up around the objective. Hunters to the far left, even Ducky splitting his way over to the rest of the team. If the Ferrymen realize this, they could try and maybe get a catch out onto one of them. Quig able to walk just past the silence field and get himself back to the team. Aurora gonna still continue to be that nuisance, that pain in Oath's side, just to make sure that he can't find his way into the back line.
And that has been a problem because, you know, Oath is usually the driving force here for the Eldritch Hounds. And he has not been able to find those kills, sort of string together some aggression. And because of that, the Eldritch Hounds have fallen behind a bit in the past. But so far, I think Coast finding all this farm has been a big boost for them. He's 2 levels up on Cyclone Spin, has that tower down. It's actually the Hounds that were going for a pull. But again, there's no way the Hounds can go for a pull. It has to be a bait. If Sino is nearby and the Eldritch Hounds pull Gold Fury, it is not because they are trying to out-confirm. They are looking for a fight. And Tier 1 tower, try to be grabbed, but Paul's got enough damage to try and stay back, and now Benikiu's going to have to juke out Baskin. Does get knocked up, but already used Driving Strike. Shouldn't be in too much trouble. Just gets the boulder dropped on him for fun, and a Sunder. Just try and poke out the Merlin, but Benny will be just fine. He's got plenty of regen just by sitting by and watching. But the Primal Fury is going to be started up. Remember, Circle Protection available. The Hounds either need to fight or go look elsewhere.
Sino still holding on to the ultimate. Will now drop it down, throw out their big burst damage. It's secured Primal Fury for the Styx Ferrymen. Another Fury under their belts after that Gold Fury. Look at that, 1,000 damage from Circle of Protection to guarantee that one. That goes into right what you were saying. Eldritch Hounds, he can't out-confirm that. Now even with a Runic Bomb, that's not enough damage to outdo what Sino's able to perform with this E-set.
And that's the thing. You either look for fights elsewhere, or you fight after the Circle of Protection. The Eldritch Hounds have just been giving up farm. I think Oath was on the right side of the map, so he did say, hey, I'm going to steal away their jungle. That's something. It's definitely not nothing. Being able to take away that red buff, see, Paul doesn't get that farm, push a wave or two over on right, but still. Like, gold is what you're looking for, those power spikes. Ever so important when you're leading into a possible Fire Giant fight. But the Pyromancer is back up. Quake has the only Runic Bomb on his squad, but Aurora is also able to mirror one. So this could be big. 2 Runic Bombs, that could out-confirm a Circle of Protection, so stacking it up would be nice. I don't think Sino would drop his ultimate. It's not even available. So there's a chance for the Eldritch Hounds to fight in for this Pyromancer if they fight now.
Pyro pulled. Taking a decent bit of damage, but reset once more. The Eldritch Hounds stand by. Benikiu not near, on his way back from base. I didn't even notice there for a moment, though, Charlie. Even though Oath hasn't really been involved in a lot of these team fights, hasn't been active, he's still got a good level lead up over his opponent. And now Sino, the one in danger, has dropped the ultimate defensively just to escape through. The Eldritch Hounds, that sent Benikiu back to base. He just walked back to rejoin for this fight and already has to make the trek once more.
Oath is going for the flank. He already popped the Dragon Call. He wants to get back, but it doesn't seem like he's going to have that much opportunity. So I know how to use both rugs, so he went back to base as well. Where's the CC coming? Quick, once again, steps way too far forward. He's going to have to back up here. Gets pulled, but should be just fine for the time being. And Sino was able to reset, so now the other towns are looking at a much worse spot. The Ferrymen have a free pull, but where's the confirmation? Again, Sino doesn't have it.
Oh, Baskin pulls back too. Ducky nearly taken out of this fight, and he's got to head his way all the way back to base. The frontliners to the Eldritch Hounds have been picked away in this fight. Maybe not killed off, but definitely sent back, at least just by too much damage. Styx Ferrymen barely able to confirm that Pyromancer for themselves. Nobody going to pick it up just yet. Now Aurora going to cancel his back to make sure that he can go pick up that one for the team. So now, 2 Runic Bombs and an E-set ultimate on the side of the Styx Ferrymen. But what I was trying to get right before that fight was that Oath hasn't really been involved in a whole lot for this team. You know, the kills haven't been going the way of the Hounds ever since that Gold Fury way earlier on. But Oath has just been power farming this game. Already's hit level 20. Meanwhile, Sino on the opposite end, only sitting at level 17.
There's 3 level 20s on the side of the Hounds, and there are no one even 19 on the side of the Styx Ferrymen. And that's because it's been a lot of, oh, we have E-set ult, we're going to group up towards Gold Fury, but we're not going to pull it just yet. We're going to stick around. And the Hounds say, okay, we're going to send half of our team left, half our team right, and just have the tank sit by and try and contest. Because of that, they have fallen pretty far behind. Upgraded starter items could be a big deal. But the issue now becomes, will the other towns force this engagement because they have these power spikes? If they don't, it's useless. The Styx Ferrymen will just hit level 20, and none of that will matter. You can only hit level 20 once. The XP becomes a non-factor if you're not trying to force something now. And I'm thinking, because Sino's beads are down for 45 seconds, now would be a great time to do so. Find the E-set, try and get a pick, look towards the Fire Giant. Are the Elder Towns doing so? Does not seem like it. Oath actually went back to base, just as I called that. So probably grouping up towards fire, yes. But as long as Sino stays in the back line for the next 25 seconds, he'll be just fine once those beats come back.
Some damage thrown back towards the Hounds' way. Quick, half HP and less. Baskin pushes him against the wall, but a quick dash back. And then a Sunder back through. Boulder from Baskin taps all 3 of the Eldritch Hounds inside the corridor. Quig and Coast both low, but sustain from the Horus should, at least between the Horus and the Guan Yu, allow the Eldritch Hounds to resustain back up, get themselves ready. There's no real threat to Fire Giant just yet. Again, 6 Ferrymen just kind of playing around the objective and seeing what the Eldritch Hounds are willing to fight for.
Yep, and now you got to think about the ease of popping Sino's bubble. I mean, there's not too much CC that you're going to be able to get onto an E set. It's really only Quig, and what I just saw was Quig go in for a stun, take, I would say, 60% of his HP, and then have to dash out. He is not tanky enough to find that bubble. So Sino's essentially made himself much easier to just stay at the front line, because where's the pressure? No one is going to be able to pop that easily, and he can just hit big CC like that. And now, the Eldritch Hounds have lost their pressure. They're not going to be able to contest this Fire Giant. They need to look for a fight. It has to be a bait, and they have to look towards the man on your screen now. Sino has to be stopped if they're going to try and go in for a bait here.
Roar.
Oh, they
gonna
tried.
Get stunned out. Will be forced away for the time being, but Quig is down to 30%. He's forced out of the fight. Now Benny might get caught out. Spirit Ball will get both the beats and the Aegis away from him. Sino gets so much value from one single ability up against Benny Q. He'll throw down the Blizzard as well. And now Aurora to the backline gets thrown through the realms by Vapor's Coast, and maybe Turn and Burn caught out of position. Can't get out. Coast takes him down, but Paul picks up an instant double in the fight. Sino's gonna make it 3 for the 6 Ferrymen. And now Oath may be the next one on the chopping block. Quarter held. Paul catches him with the L, and it's a triple for Paul.
And now the 6 Ferrymen get their 3, get their 4. They lose Aurora. They should be able to grab this Fire Giant for free. Quig not going to be able to make a miracle play. This Horus does not bring the steal potential. Just step a little bit too far up. I mean, Benny Q, I think, got tired of trying to sit back. You saw Ducky engage onto Sino. He immediately blinks the Horus and gets away. He says, nope, I'm not letting you pull this bubble. I know that I have to keep my ultimate up here for my team. And then the mages, Paul and Sino, find so much damage, so much value from that CC from the E set. And the fight just goes heavily in the Styx Ferryman's favor. This is what I was talking about. That big lead is going to be completely nullified. Cyclone Spin should be able to just catch up, hit level 20. They'll be able to match the build of Coast. Paul and Sino, of course, already hit that level 20, so the upgraded starter items for Benny Q and Oath are no longer a threat. It's pretty much just getting Baskin to level 20, so he gets that extra anti-heal, extra tank stats. That's a big deal. Because Aurora, he's already got the Sentinel's Embrace. He's got some group prots for his team with the Thebes and the Heart Ward, as well as that Embrace. So that's pretty much it. The Hounds missed their opportunity. Now they have to try and turtle underneath their Phoenix line. Tier 2 towers are a possible defense opportunity. But this ESET is continuing to be a problem. It's just, he's not doing the most damage, but it's the threat of that ultimate and the fact that this bubble will not come off. I have not seen any CC on the Sino. Like, Ducky used the Horse to try and get the CC, and they just couldn't find it.
So then question now comes, at least for the 6 Ferrymen on these sieges, because Eldritch Hounds, I mean, you got a Merlin, you've got a Heimdall, you've got decent ways to try and keep these minions out. Benny Q without any relics, he'll go down here. Sino picks up that kill for himself, and well, maybe that simplifies the question of what tools do the 6 Ferrymen have for a siege? Find a pick, and it makes it that much easier. Yeah,
let me just be clear. No reason for a Merlin with no relics to be standing there. Ao Kuang is getting a tier 2 tower, but your tower is not relevant. The Titan is being attacked.
Quig thrown up to the sky. Boulder lands down. Quig able to dash down the pillar. Not enough damage. It's a siege on the Titan, but without an ultimate from Sino, maybe not enough damage, but how about taking down Ducky? Oath tries to get him, but he's silenced immediately twice. Once by Sino, once by Aurora. Forced back to the fountain. Coast in trouble, avoids the Spirit Ball, but he's used both of his relics on this defense. The Eldritch Hounds, they hold their base, but they've lost a couple of lives trying to do so.
Oath still has ultimate. He's trying to close gap and get an execute if possible. Is he going to get silenced when he walks in? Of course he is. Now Quig is forced to dash out. Baskin needs to find some CC here for his team if they want to try and continue this fight. But it looks like with 2 Runic Bombs still available, Tier 2 tower is more of an opportunity to try and go for. Looks like they will be able to grab it. Again, BennyQ trying to defend the tier 2 tower with no relics. Sino says, hey, that dude beads in Aegis last time I saw him. Blink in, silence, easy kill. And that's the reason that Phoenix goes down and almost turned into an actual Titan siege because Oath spent a lot of time over on right lane. But he was able to get back in time. And the Styx Ferrymen will take that tier 2, take that Phoenix over on left, and head on back to base to spend some of that gold.
Quig's got no fear on this horse. The amount of times that he has walked in to 2, 3, 4 people by himself and has just trusted that somebody would be standing nearby to make sure he can get that protector surge back off to return himself to safety. It's an immense so far this game. Has worked out for him to keep him alive, but unfortunate for them, they lost out on that left side Phoenix, and with Fire Giant coming in just under 40 seconds, it'll be hard for them on a defense. And keep Ducky over here. He's got his teleport. Always joined back into the fight, but BennyQ standing so far up and opening the door for the Hounds to nearly attempt to end the game there, if not for at least the high damage value from the Eldritch Hounds to keep him back.
Yeah, if they somehow killed Benny without using Sino's ult, I'm pretty sure they would have just tried to commit toward the end. But they didn't. So now we're looking at EFG territory. We hit that 30-minute mark. The Styx Ferrymen are certainly the ones that will make the pull, as long as they don't get picked out beforehand. At the very least, the Eldritch Hounds have pushed that wave over on left very far up to the tier 2 tower here. So they can step forward and try and make a stop or try and make a fight. That is pretty much their only option. You either say, hey, we're giving up EFG, or we're fighting right now. The Eldritch Hounds do not want to sit back, though. If they do, that wave's going to start pushing in. Ducky will have to leave, and they will have missed their opportunity. It's just difficult because who are you engaging on? Again, Sino's got the beads, the blink, and his bubble. Aurora died last time, but it wasn't enough, and Baskin, to me, looks unkillable. So it's not going to be easy. Quig is not unkillable. Oh, my goodness. Just gets absolutely shredded there from the poke from Paul, and, of course, the auto attacks from Cyclone Spin. And now the Hounds are sieging forward. But Ducky, this is what I'm talking about. You can't step forward.
Well, Spirit Ball will get the ultimate from Ducky. That forces him out. Quig's already had to go back to base, and now the Styx Ferrymen can go right back to the Fire Giant. Coast and Benny are nearby. Steal opportunity for the two of them, but it's going to be difficult. Even though Sino has now dropped his ultimate, their major secure is gone, and BennyQ's trying to pump the damage back. Quig, who just returned to the fight, is sent right back to base yet again. The Styx Ferrymen health bar not overly healthy from that fight.
Baskin's going back. He's got teleport locked and loaded. He can easily return to this fight, and he will. This is not a good call here for the Eldritch Hounds. They need to retreat, but it looks like they may have overstayed their welcome. If anyone can find some CC, Baskin unfortunately misses the pull, but check out left lane. That Phoenix is spawning here shortly. Someone is going to have to leave, and Paul knows exactly where Oath is. Oh, but he didn't trust himself. The stealth, he was able to get away.
Paul at least had numbers, had the idea of where he was, but just didn't want to commit to the potion. Once again, Fire Giant pulled Ducky and BennyQ nearby. Benny's got to flicker away from Paul's damage. He's hitting pretty hard at this point. Baskin missed the knock-up. Ducky inside of the pit, onto the horse once more, and out of the fight. Aurora now dropping low. Oath tries to go in, gets the execute. To start the fight off, and Paul is nearly gone. BennyQ takes him down. The Eldritch Hounds have turned this fight back around. Quig stunned out, nearly dropped through, but the Fire Giant goes to the Eldritch Hounds.
Now that left side Phoenix is about to drop, they have to channel their backs quickly, and Basket does not want to let them go back to base. BennyQ made it. It looks like he doesn't have enough time, though. That Phoenix should be dropping because of those archers. Yep, it's fine, though. When you lose one Phoenix and you have Enhanced Fire Giant, you just push that lane where the Phoenix goes down. I'm amazed of the Styx Ferrymen. Cyclone Spin has been doing so much damage. Of course, Paul falling down was a big loss. He stepped up a bit too far. The Fire Giant did a lot. And Oath was able to make it back in and get that execute onto Aurora from the sky. He can just relay so much information to his team, go down exactly when he needs to. And the Eldritch Hounds, I'm not going to say in the driver's seat fully. They still are a bit behind map state-wise. They need to get a Phoenix and drop these tier 2 towers. But with Enhanced Fire Giant and an Oni Fury, they should be feeling pretty confident to at least try and siege this left side bird.
Left tier 2 down. All ultimates up for both sides of the map aside from Quig. He's just waiting to come back up. It just now ticks back over. Relics for Paul gone. 60 seconds plus on all of those. 30 seconds until Coast gets his beads back. So could be a potential target at least for the Styx Ferrymen to collapse on. But it won't be a commit fully, at least, to the left side Phoenix. It's a bit hesitant from the Eldritch Hounds to make a commitment towards one of these Phoenixes just yet. Minion wave on the way in. Well, it's Cyclone with the range that he provides. Hard for these minions to get through, and really feels difficult for the Hounds to make a commitment onto one of the birds.
Yeah, this is a call for the Eldritch Hounds to back up for sure. It doesn't look like they got the memo, though. Look at the team. They're on the right side of the map. Now, Ducky and Oath, they want to siege forward. Quig and Coast and Benny are going to fly towards mid lane a little bit. That Phoenix is gone. No one was able to defend it. And it seemed like that could have been a misplay. But Aurora was not able to get them back. Look how much damage is coming through. I mean, the range on the side of the Ferryman is just a bit ridiculous. Paul, half-health Coast, you gotta retreat.
Spirit Ball, if that would have connected, plus Boulder could have easily taken down Coast, but he makes it out. Right side Phoenix stripped away.
What?
Oath picks off Cyclone in the middle of 4, and now Ducky's pushing forward. Ultimate from Sino does clip Oath, and that'll take him out as a 1-for-1. Mid Phoenix still stands. BennyQ moves forward and flickers himself right back out. Quick gets the sun onto Baskin and Aurora. Still trying to survive, but Coast will put him down before he falls down. It's a Baskin double kill for the Styx Ferrymen, and looking to make it just a little bit more. Wants to knock up, wants to push onto anybody, but they're just so far out of range. Tries to find Ducky, but he's just a little too far away.
Yeah, the Styx Ferrymen would love to fight this, but they have to go back to base. Remember, they lost that right side bird, Oni minion sieging forward, and now Paul used the blast off. He's not going to try and chase down. That's going to be the end of it. And Cyclone Spin had both relics available. I'll tell you what he got surprised about. Poly shot into Water Illusion. Did not expect that much damage from Oath. And when you go Ao Kuang and you're able to make use of those poly procs, you think, oh, he's only got a couple abilities. As long as I juke those, I'll be fine. That poly hits even harder than an ability sometimes, especially this late into the game. He gets tons of value. Wasn't even able to Aegis in time. And he gets a right side bird. And was looking towards mid Phoenix, but was not able to grab it. So now the map state, a little bit more equalized. You know, you get right Phoenix, which isn't that difficult for the Ferrymen to defend, but the Hounds should be able to get their left side bird back up before this enhanced Fire Giant spawns in, or at the very least, mirrored timing. If Ducky sticks around a bit longer, he should be able to push 1 or 2 more waves and then teleport in, and that should guarantee that his Phoenix spawns in. But relic-wise, Sino's missing Blink. Paul doesn't have the beads on the right side. Oath doesn't have anything for a bit. His Blink just came off cooldown, and of course, Coast isn't going to have beads or Benny for a while. So this is a dangerous fight for either one of these teams to take. But Ducky did back early, so there is still Fire Minions over on left. That Phoenix will go down if this fight goes too long.
Fire started up once more by the Ferryman. Ducky steps in, and Oath waiting for an opportunity to make his way through. Instead, we'll just go for poke on a Sino. Takes him to half. Meanwhile, it's Ducky low on the back line. A Quig thrown up by Aurora and by Baskin, but the push misses by Baskin, so Quig and Ducky both live through. Ducky does not have teleport to get back to this fight. The Styx Ferrymen, they pull fire and they immediately reset it once more.
Yep, Fire Minions are on their Titan, so the Ferryman knows someone's going to have to go back to base here. That's the reason Oath steps forward. There's still Fire Minions heading into left as well, so it should be a Fire Giant pull. But remember, Sino does have ultimate. Ducky's sieging forward, but he's so low!
Charges in, Cyclone Spin low. Oath is the only healthy one on the bottom side of this fight. He goes for Sino, nearly takes him out, but Quig and Benny both fall down. It's a double now, making a triple for the Styx Ferrymen, and 2 in the pocket of Baskin. Aurora trying to buy some time up against Coast, and he buys just enough because Paul shows up to clothesline the carry.
Yep, that's going to be it. There's no way the Ducky's able to get back in time and try and help out his squad. It's just going to need a grouping. Aurora's still weak, though. Paul's going to head over to that left side Phoenix. That's where the Ferrymen need to group. I liked the call. They saw the Fire Minions that they stepped forward, but Paul just does too much damage. No one had answers. He's doing more than double just about anyone else in this game. And they're choosing to push mid lane because they have the minions. Ducky's going to have to make a miracle play, and it's not going to be easy.
Waiting for ultimate, trying to distract Paul, but you need to deal with Cyclone, the one who's killing the Phoenix. Ducky pushed against the wall. Ultimate is back up for him, but doesn't have the best opportunity, and will now just charge his way right in. A runic bomb used, and as soon as he lands off the horse, it's curtain call for the Eldritch Hounds. Styx Ferrymen take game 1.
Yep, back and forth and back again with the Styx Ferrymen. Finally find that win. I mean, map state-wise, it did look in their favor. Again, that right side Phoenix is a little bit more valuable to have up because you're able to just get so close to Fire Giant if you're going to lose one. And I thought when the Fire Minions were pouring in, that was going to be the call for the Hounds to just stay around, stop backs. But I think they overcommitted a little bit too hard. They stepped in. They either A, underestimated Paul's damage, or B, overestimated how much they could do and try and kill. And they just got picked apart.
Yeah, I mean, even Quig and Ducky, they took so much in the pre-siege right before that at the fire, and then they never went back to base to reset themselves. And with that one, the Styx Ferrymen are able to find themselves a win for game number 1 in this best of 5. And on the lower end bracket, up for elimination. Styx Ferrymen start the set off strong. We'll see if they can keep it going in game 2 right after this break.
Keeping me all night, keeping me all night. Keeping me all night, keeping me all night. Keeping me all night, keeping me all night. Keeping me all night, keeping me all night, all night.
Well, it's a 1-0 victory after a pretty tumultuous game. A little bit of back and forth, sometimes decision-making, maybe not exactly where it needed to be. And you know what? There's a lot of things in life that you got to waffle on and decide on. One thing that you can be certain of, though, is that you're going to get a good product if you go to advance.gg. And, of course, you can get the Godslayer bundle that is available. It's going to give you a fantastic Godslayer flavor that is going to have. I literally, it was shredded when we got the
We
offers.
kept them on the desk,
Yeah.
right?
If you look at any of the, what are those called? I
Tubs?
guess containers. Yeah, little tubs. They're all empty because people kept coming onto set to get a scoop. We'd be casting.
Guys from backstage
Mike
you never
would
see.
walk in front, just grab it and walk away. People love the flavor here, man, and you're going to love it too. So you want to make sure you go to advance.gg. You also get some amazing shakers. I literally cannot understate how fantastically these are made. And this is a really weird point, but the lids on these are like one of the favorite lids I've ever had on a cup like this.
This is heavy too. Like it is high quality. Like when you pick up something and it's heavy, this is a blunt force weapon if you want.
I have gotten, I don't know if I'd go that far. Well, I mean, you're not wrong, but I don't know if I'd say that. But I have gotten cheap water bottles so often over the last year, and I drop them constantly. I've broken 4, and when you think about it, that's like $80 that I've now spent. If it's $20 a water bottle.
How do you break a bottle, man?
So when you're like, especially in like 2020, when like the gym was closed, so I'm like running around outside, I would try to leave it on my car, and my car is not level, and so it would fall over. That was one.
You hit it with your car?
I didn't. Yeah, I ran it over. I was like, damn, I hate water bottles.
I don't know if these are going to survive that.
No, I mean that's.
Yeah, you can run this over, sure.
I could run my car over this at least once.
All right, you know what? Man,
We could run. Your car's bigger than mine. You
I'm
could
going to
run
go
your
talk
car
to
over
Hindu.
this at
We'll
least
see if we can
once.
get if I can run over one of these, and we'll see if it survives.
Did you get one? Do you have like a personal one? We could just use.
Yeah, of
we could
course.
use that instead.
I
Gotta
don't
keep
wanna
the
risk
desk looking good,
mine.
man. We're gonna use yours for the test. What are we talking about? Smite. That's where we're at. Godslayer bundle. Godslayers on the Styx. So at least taking down a lot of the Hounds here. And Mifflin, there are a lot of moments where the fights are going well for them. There are also quite a few moments where the fights aren't going well for them. I mean, the Hounds had a lot of opportunities to try and fight back into this, just as many as the Styx had to finish it.
Yeah, but the Styx Ferrymen do control the game throughout the early for a good deal of
Yeah,
it. That
for a
E-set
long portion.
got much more active than I thought it would. Sino involved everywhere on the map. Felt like he was primarily playing
about that
spoiler to Oath's game. And what I hadn't taken into account during P's or B's originally was how miserable this is going to be for Ao Kuang. Double silence into Ao Kuang has just got to be one of the worst feelings ever. Yeah, oh, okay, my get out of jail free card is executing somebody. Can't do it. I can't cast my abilities. Uh-oh. Tough situation. So Oath really does struggle to get his damage out this game thanks to the combined efforts of Sino and Aurora. Baskin, of course, and I probably sound like a Baskin fanboy, but how could you not when you watch the Styx Ferryman? This guy is just absolutely so dominant. Even that first fight, the first blood, where we saw Sino find a full channeled ultimate onto 3 targets. Fortunately for Oath survives, but that's Baskin setting it all up. It's a triple push into the ultimate to charge it up. It's a pull onto 2 to keep him there as well. Doesn't hit pay dirt, but that's the Baskin difference. He will do the utmost in every situation, and when you've got a consistent player playing at the level that Baskin has been, Woon Young Kim's just a guy you got to keep your eyes on.
I mean, you had mentioned it, the Vamana, something that feels like it's a must ban against the Ferryman, just because otherwise Baskin's going to go 10-1 on you, and there's not anything you can do about it except get rid of the god. I also had to give the shout out. I said oof, I forgot about that one because I remember remarking on it to you. When Baba Yaga's shapes, right? They're hard to predict. Sometimes you're going to get an L that way, an L that way, a Y, or you might just get the oval. You never know which one you're going to get hit with, but you can typically tell, okay, there's a straight line coming at me. If I go left or right, it's a 50-50 that it's not going to hit me. And unfortunately for Oath, he goes left, it goes left, and that one falls apart. But it does open up, at least for me, one of my favorite casting capabilities, which is that Baba Yaga handed him that L. And it's just poetic, man. It rhymes. And so you have to at least appreciate it. And I also saw people in chat pointing it out, but you can't give Paul something he's going to have a good performance on. Baba Yaga, I think, is absolutely cemented
Call
on
it
there.
60,000 damage from, I believe, 56, 57, somewhere in there.
It's a lot to deal with. So, picks and bans, Game 2, Ferrymen and Hounds. And it seems like the Hounds are on our line of thinking. Vamana, because you can't let Baskin have it. Hell. And then, well, Hell, because you can't let Paul have it. We have to be honest. It's not Aurora playing that. It's Paul. And then Baba Yaga, because guess what? You can't let Paul have it. Other side, it's the same 3 bands, the Afro, Yamoja, and Marty. And then, as they have for every single one of their first pick games so far, the Ferrymen are going to lock in the Hachi, even if it costs them a Guan, but it didn't seem to bug them too much last time.
Yeah, but now, where do the adaptations lie? Eldritch Hounds hovering the Horus as well. Double front line locked in early. It's a lot of sustain. You don't need it anywhere else. Guan Yu and Horus will keep you healed up for the entirety of that team fight. Both have got pretty decent defense shred opportunities, so you're not so worried about the physical stack either. I think a good front line for the Eldritch Hounds, and it's not as if there is any clear counter selections to either of those 2 picks. The adaptations of the Styx Ferrymen, where I'm putting my eyes, I had thought we would see a mage selection in this slot. I mean, there are still so many available. The Merlin, of course, one of Paul's go-tos. Paul, I mean, he's essentially just a jack of all trades as far as mages are concerned.
Yeah,
Capable
right.
of playing the Morgan Le Fay as well. The Agni has been one of his go-to selections as of recent. But now, having left it available and not taking a mid laner, there's a lot of bans that could go his way. Fortunately for Paul, somehow, some way, he just keeps floating under the radar, and it's Aurora absorbing the bans.
Well, the Ares was banned last time alongside Terra. Ganesh has been something Aurora's been going to, so I'm not surprised to see that banned out. Outside of the fact that you're banning a Ganesh in 2023 when nobody else is playing it.
I think that Ares ban is really smart, though. Into Horus, it's just...
Yeah, I guess so.
You don't want 50% of your kit gone all the time,
Guan
right?
Yu has to ult if he wants to get out
Yeah,
of
Guan Yu as well.
Agni has to use his beads.
Yep.
Xbalanque now has to use his beads. You remember when they used to have CC immunity on their dashes?
Yeah, Agni in particular, that was a tough time to be alive.
Yeah, it was a tough time to play supports. If you were a frontline, good luck to you. But they ban out, as you mentioned, maybe some more niche picks that Aurora would play into them. And it costs you meta picks because Terra and the Hebo are locked in. And we've been seeing a lot of Hebo in the jungle. I think you yesterday had talked about it as something that the Kings had played and maybe Twig wanted to kind of maybe take a break on. Let's go into Paul. Paul has had one of the more notorious Hebos. I'm even going to call it infamous because it is one that you don't want to find yourself against too often.
That's the Peebo.
And you're going up against Sino's Naja as well. I mean, that is a devastating duo in mid.
Yeah, this is a very good composition now from the Styx Ferrymen at dealing with frontline. Anytime Sino is on Naja, the frontline is not safe. He's going to stack up as much penetration as he can, deal as much damage as he can, and pray that the rest of his team can fall in line, get in range, and start applying that damage. But look at the chain CC opportunities off of the tail end of a Windfire Wheel. Hercules can line up a pull easily. Water Spout from Hebo, free. Stun from Terra, free. Hachiman from downtown with these auto attacks as well. So the Eldritch Hounds front line got to play very cautiously while simultaneously creating space for their own back line because Xbalanque is not exactly self-sufficient back there. He doesn't really peel for himself all that well. Agni can help out a bit with some of his CC, but even then, Naja probably going to have an easy time getting there. So keep your eyes on the Hounds and how they play that front to back. Thor to round out the draft. That's got to be Thor jungle. It's not the Ferrymen, so we but Ducky plays Thor as well. Would you be willing to play Guan jungle? I don't think so. It's got to be standard front line, have Thor in that standard assassin role for physical composition, but we already talked about how much defense shred the Eldritch Hounds have. A lot of heavy lifting here, though, for Benny Q. Should be able to have an opportunity to put up big numbers, considering magical defense not exactly going to be valued here by the Styx Ferrymen. But don't you just feel like the Eldritch Hounds got to be kicking themselves a little bit, saying, oh, yeah, we really controlled Aurora, guys. We forced them to Terra.
Right.
Yeah, that feels pretty tough.
Oh man, we locked away Paul. He's on Hebo. Very similar. And we've had this conversation. There's quite a few players in the league like that. Genetics comes to my mind immediately. There was a long period of time where when we were watching King sets, you could guess all 5 bans because they were all genetics bans. You're going to see a Ymir ban, a Terra ban. You're going to see at certain points maybe a Maui ban. Like it was going to be five different Guardians. And then he was going to lock in a Capri or a Geb, and he was still going to just look better than you on that pick. And it feels like this is one where you kind of half-end on one, half-end on the other, and didn't quite get where you wanted to. Thor, though, does bring up an interesting conversation, because yesterday, I think it was me and Trelly talking about it. You had mentioned it on the desk, but we were watching it in the game. Ducky had played it in solo, and we were talking about the fact that there's a Hebo in mid on the other side. So you have to imagine he's going to rotate over, he's going to dunk on him, he's going to use the wall, like he's going to try to make that Hebo's life a living hell. Never saw the rotation, played like a simple solo laner. Went double stacking, if I remember correctly, as well. If it's going into the jungle, which in theory
Probably
it should,
is.
with a Guan Yu on the team, right? It should be able to pick on the Hebo a little bit more, and that wall can actually be devastating against him.
It really can. Hebo just does not have great answers to Thor. Generally, we'll see throughout the early game an immediate crushing wave response. You see the circle on the ground saying, oh god, I'm going to get dunked.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and reposition as best I can and channel that CC immunity. But even then, taking away crushing wave for Anvil of Dawn, at certain points of the game, very valuable.
But also it's Paul you're going up against, so we'll see what they can do. Can the Hounds tie things up, or the Ferrymen take a 2-0 lead? Let's find out in game 2.
Match point now on the line to start out, at least for the Ferrymen, if they can find a win here and extend that lead to the 2-0 up against the Eldritch Hounds. Or will the Hounds bring it back and tie things up? It's J-Mac, Charlie, and Doug here for game number 2 between the Ferrymen and the Eldritch Hounds. And now, chat, which was in game number 1, pushing nearly 60% in favor of the Eldritch Hounds, has actually flipped entirely, thinking now the 6 Ferrymen. Maybe a bit of recency bias with the win that the Ferrymen got in their prior game, but also you have Sino on a signature pick. You have Paul on one of his best picks that he doesn't get to play very often. And Aurora makes his way over to the Terra. Feels like the Styx Ferrymen got everything they wanted with this composition.
It is a pretty nasty draft here for the Ferrymen. And the Hounds have a lot of CC. It's just the Thor pick has fallen off for me a bit. It does have great matchups. If you're able to just dunk on Paul consistently, you will be able to find value. It does depend on how accurate you are with your walls and how accurate you are with Anvil of Dawn. That's really the fall off for me. If you're hitting everything, of course he hasn't fallen off. Thor's still great. But if you lose some of that value, if you're missing your double taps, etc., then yeah, it is going to be a little bit more difficult. And the issue becomes it's not easy to land those ults all the time, especially when the Ferrymen are constantly calling out, hey, Thor's up, we've got wards, we know where he's coming from, that sort of thing. It does become a little bit more difficult. But it all depends on where and how Oath wants to try and get aggressive. With Sino and Paul on Naja and Hebo respectively, it's not going to be easy to win the early trade, that's for sure. I mean, the Agni does not have good wave clear until level 5. You have to step up and get very close to the wave, which is never ideal, especially when you're up against a possible ring bounce, things like that. So I'm thinking early pressure, of course, is going to go over the Ferrymen, and because of that, you got to assume they're going to hit level 5 around a little bit early and try and get aggressive. Holding on to those beads is going to be key here if you're Benny Q or Oath.
Porsche Coast piloting the Shibalanke, something that we've really only seen pretty much for some of the veterans of the league, some of the older players in that ADC role, but Coast now starting to add that one to his wheelhouse in some of these pro matches. I wonder how his performance on it will be. So we've been seeing a lot of the kind of standard new start for the Hunters, maybe shying away from the cloak, this Death's Toll coming its way back through. Essentially kind of giving almost a permanent bola over to Vaporish Coast by keeping that one out. Aurora now caught out of position. The slow is there from the darts, but Coast not going to continue any further forward. We'll just continue pumping on us instead. It's Cyclone who's trying to body block for Aurora. Eldritch Hounds winning out in the health department in the duo lane.
There's CC though. There is the lockdown that Aurora would have had to worry about. But they do also have that regen, which should be fine. Unfortunate, Oath didn't have the cooldown right away, so Paul already lost his beads. Those will be up in another 2.5 minutes or so. So you do have a target on your head if you're the Hebo. But Oath also lost his beads, so now Sino might have a target. This is going to be interesting watching the 2v2 mid dynamic if it comes through. Again, you usually see junglers go over towards shield buff, go over towards cooldown buff, but shield buff is untouched at the moment. Probably because Oath wanted to try and go for that kill onto Paul in mid lane. But now, going over towards the right, you've got an opportunity to look for a relic, and Benny Q is getting ganked. He doesn't have too much to worry about. He should just be able to dash away, turn around, stun if he needs to. But at this point, I'm thinking level 5, we might see sparks fly. What was it? It took a solid 10 minutes or so before we saw fighting in game number 1. I don't think we're on pace to see that. I would imagine these junglers at level 5 will have targets they want to look for. And I'm hoping that that's what it is. Just right as those ultimates become available, either Oath or Sino decides to get active.
Benny Q did get put under fire, but maintained his beads even through that sash, maybe unfazed at how much damage Sino and Paul can do before their ults come off of cooldown, or come online, I should say. And it is actually Benny Q hitting that level 5 first in that mid 2v2. Oath immediately behind him, so some potential pressure. Here comes Paul's way. Still About 65 seconds until those beads are back online. In fact, BennyQ's got a fairly significant lead in mid. Sino's maybe been soaking up a little bit too much farm in mid because Paul hasn't even hit that level 5 just yet. Well, never mind. Just now hits 5.
Well, BennyQ, he's at the pressure with Conduit Gem. He clears faster, which means he can go for mid camps on his own. Paul would have to take a long time to try and clear those out. Those sort of things do add up. No beads, 40 seconds, and Oath is in mid. Is he going to channel Anvil of Dawn right now? That's my question. He's nearby. He has the opportunity to do so, but it looks like he doesn't want to try and dive underneath that tower. Maybe trying to get BennyQ to force out the ultimate could be the call. But if you can't get the ult, and you're not looking towards mid lane, you're going to be looking elsewhere. Sino is here, though. He would love to try and pull the beads off of BennyQ, or even take him up with an ultimate if he feels like he's safe. This is my question, though. Where do these junglers decide to get active? Oath is like, oh, I could ult, yeah, but shield buff. You know, I could ult mid, but these mids are up. These junglers, they see kills, and yeah, it's worth it to go for them, but sometimes it's not worth it to lose your farm to do so. And Oath is valuing that just a little bit more. Would rather try and finish up some items. You know, Transcendence is, you want to get it stacked up as soon as possible, so maybe going in before he gets that ultimate, he wants to finish that first item.
We'll immediately head towards his back camps. Blue's going to be coming up shortly for him to be able to work towards. Even has the roaming harpies that he can deal with for the time being. Just get a little bit of that extra farm, get some of the extra gold online. It is a Jotun's already completed for Sino on the opposite side. Oath still a little gold away from being able to get that Transcendence. And now maybe a collapse towards Ducky. Sino rotates over. An ultimate from Vaporish Coast may just stop this one in its tracks. Oath goes down with the dunk and gets the beads away from Sino. Meanwhile, Baskin is still fighting up against Ducky. Sino low. He's got to use the ultimate to get himself out. Oath good for the chase, and Oath gets picked up by Baskin, but the driving strike wasn't there, so it should be fine. Has the beads away because the hammer gets caught.
No,
another pickup is there. Baskin doesn't have Boulder. He's just trying to buy a few extra seconds. But Aurora might come in to try and close this kill out. Does go for the molly. Gets the root of the driving strike after. It's Baskin on the board first for the Ferrymen.
I mean, Baskin just put on a clinic there. Oath was like, yeah, I'm going to ult in, I'm going to get beads, and then I'm going to get out. Unfortunately, Baskin said, nope, pull you back, push you forward, pull you back, push you forward. Aurora comes through. Make sure to confirm that kill. And a well-deserved first blood. Not easy. Did all those abilities. BennyQ was able to juke out the ultimate. That was the question. Are you getting hit by the crushing wave? In this case, no. And he holds on to his beats. So good plays there. But still, Baskin, that was a ridiculous amount of pulls there. Unfortunate for Oath. If he just held his Berserker's Barrage for one of those pulls, would have been fine. But I guess A, didn't think Baskin would hit all of them, or B, underestimated the cooldown.
Yeah, even with some of the nerfs to cooldown that has come through to that combo, Baskin's still picking up a little bit of CDR early. Means they come online just about the same time frame that they had prior. BennyQ and Quig team up to Aurora. They don't go for the immediate stun from Benny, but they get the follow-up damage after Aurora. No, goes down to the burn from the passive of the Agni at this point. And it's now the Eldritch Hounds who are able to notch themselves a kill on the board and over towards their mid laner.
That's going to be a big kill. Paul wants to hold on to his beads here. The stun comes through, and he will not be able to. But a wall from Oath could net a kill. Doesn't land it, Paul. Too fast on that Atlas of the Yellow River. Now be able to stay just enough back to live to see another day. Doesn't have Crushing Wave back up in BennyQ. Would love to get him a stun and some more poke onto this Hebo. This is what I'm talking about. Oath has ult. I would love to see an attempted gank towards mid when these beads are down, because Paul and the Hebo can be such a threat, and it really is not easy. As Cyclone Spin, unfortunately, will lose a little bit of his HP. Doesn't have to use the beads, though. He's got the ult. Oath, he's ulting in, Paul?
Wait, BennyQ? He dashed back? It's a 1-for-1 trade. It's Oath. Well, he'll dunk in afterwards just for an after party, but immediately Hammer reports out. The mids trade out lives, but it's a kill for BennyQ and one for Sino on the receiving end. BennyQ 2 levels up as well. Paul's not able to get this same level of farm as Benny.
Yep, too much range. I mean, this is the issue with Hebo. Things like Thoth, anyone that can keep him at a distance and out-farm him are going to make sure that he can't step up early. But what I've always said is it doesn't matter. Unfortunately for the Eldritch Hounds, you can put Hebo down as much as you want. He's still going to be Hebo. He's one of the few mages that doesn't feel as bad to get behind, because you'll always be able to burst through these carries. Tanks, of course, that's a problem, but Hebo never really was known for his tank tread. He's got crazy burst on the squishy target. So as long as Paul's hitting ultimates, he will find value. But still, BennyQ's doing a great job of number 1, pulling relics, and number 2, keeping Paul underneath tower as much as possible. That's what you kind of have to do. Build up a lead for yourself. This Agni, with a lead, can be extremely scary.
Ducky and Baskin having a bit of fun over in the solo lane for these two warriors. And well, until we start seeing those teleports fully upgrade, might be a while before we see them joining into the actual action across the map. BennyQ just off the mark with the stun up against Aurora. So Aurora we had to snake away without taking too much damage from BennyQ and Quig, who's been very active across the map. Quig has been rotating lane to lane. But same with Aurora. He's been going over towards that right side of the map a couple of times, even helping to net a kill just earlier on for the Styx Ferrymen. Now Quig, a little far back in the enemy jungle, but does have some backup from Oath, from BennyQ to make this into a 3 versus 1. But the Eldritch Hounds not willing to stick around. In fact, it's a full retreat call for the Hounds.
And they will back up. 2-2. So, like I said, a little bit more action than game number 1. But still, these objectives are still where I expect to see the real scrapping. There's a little bit of a fight over the shield buff. Aurora used both dashes, but it looks like the Hounds are worried about that rotation in from Cyno. That was called out from BennyQ. And they are just going to forfeit the shield buff for now. Beads-wise, Cyno doesn't have any great targets that aren't tanks for the moment. And because of that, I haven't seen too many Windfire wheels actually connect. We saw one used defensively. And now the lights go off. But for what? Cyno was trying to find a kill onto BennyQ, I guess. The wall made sure that he wasn't able to close gap. And once again, BennyQ holds on to those beads. He has been making sure, very patient with those beads. He's taken some damage, taken some CC, but is not going to give them up because he knows if I use my beads, Cyno is going to sit in the jungle until I show myself, and it will be a free kill for Paul in that regard. So I'm not going to be able to step up. And because of that, has been playing relatively safe, still farming extremely well, but not putting himself into danger when he can help it.
Yeah, Benya has been playing passively aggressive, I guess, because I don't want to say he's a passive-aggressive one, but he's been playing passively yet aggressive with that passiveness for situations like this. And as you mentioned, the range that BennyQ has allows him to make plays like this one. Actually saw Cyno step over a ward, so backs himself a little bit further away to make sure he can still clear out the wave, but also jump right back into the jungle. Level 13 now for BennyQ. Both relics available to him. Hasn't had a moment where he's needed to use one of them just yet. Those beads have been off of cooldown since he's picked them up at the beginning of the game. And with this conduit gem, something that we saw at least a little bit yesterday was this Chronos Pennant kind of pop its way through. It was on a Morgan Le Fay, but it wasn't with the conduit gem last time through. And it feels that Benny's one of the few mid laners and one of the few players in general who are still putting a little bit of favoritism over towards this starter item.
Yep, the upgrades for Sands are, I would say, a little bit more valuable at times, but the early clear, which you're benefiting from that conduit gem. That's the reason BennyQ was able to pull ahead, and that's the reason, well, not the only reason, a good rotation in from Quig and Oath onto the Pyromancer goes down. But yeah, Agni just procs it so well, especially late game. Once you get that gem of focus, you're going to be feeling just fine. Because the Pyro goes down, I don't expect to see any fighting unless Baskin makes a clutch rotation. He's nearby, but he was driving strike on one of those roaming harpies, so I don't think his intention is to find a fight. But with Quig going up to the sky, unless Paul gets CC'd, which he does, yeah, it could be there. Beautiful play by Ducky.
But Baskin to the back line. Let's find Quig. Oath is going to do his best to try to bail out. It's a 1-for-1 trade. Cyno for Quig. Boulder used by Baskin. And Oath still keeping up the fight. Gets the wall. Baskin's on the wrong side of the wall. And the stun is there by Benny. It's a double Q for the mid laner. And Vaporish Coast even rotating through. Pressure now to the tier 1 tower afforded by the rotation from the Eldritch Hounds side laners.
Yep, gotta be highlighted. Most teams, when you see your Cyno take up your Horus and he's at 1 HP, you say, okay, that guy's dead. Ducky steps forward with the Horus, says, no, if I CC Paul and make sure that he can't follow up on this kill, there's no way Quig dies. He doesn't. Paul actually has to beads because he wanted to use Crushing Wave, was not able to go in, backs up, still has the ult off cooldown. He didn't even use it, and Quig lives to see another day. Of course, Baskin ends up diving tower, but you end up getting 2 kills off it anyways. That's gonna be worth every day of the week.
And now, Styx Ferrymen still with a very, very slight lead over the Eldritch Hounds, but it's nothing at this point of the game with only a couple hundred between them. XP even sitting right at that dead even line. But now BennyQ low.
Double
Paul
Aegis.
will Aegis through. And you can tell Paul wants to get that kill, but because he went beads and Aegis, no blink, means that BennyQ will get to survive because of how far back in the tower line he gets to sit. BennyQ, by the way, still hasn't used beads. He used Aegis this time, but hasn't had an opportunity or hasn't had a necessity to use those purification beads.
Yep, 4-1. He's got all the kills of the Eldritch Hounds so far, and he would like to continue that if possible. Gold Fury is the next objective to be looked at here. The Runic Bomb is still available for Quig, so Burst still looks fine for the Eldritch Hounds, but of course, Paul with Crushing Wave could be disastrous. He's got no relics, no Aegis for 2 minutes, and no beads for 50 seconds, and no Crushing Wave. Oath really should be looking to follow up on a stun here from BennyQ. But Paul knows, hey, I'm going to put down the outs of the Yellow River. I'm going to stay very far back if possible to make sure that I'm not caught in a stun, into a wall, into death. But even if you're not looking for a kill, Gold Fury seems very possible here for the Eldritch Hounds. If you know that Paul is in this much danger with no relics down, I don't see a reason why you're not at least baiting a pull onto the Gold Fury.
Sino walks over a ward, takes a whole heap of damage from BennyQ, a couple of bombs and a stun from that flame wave. BennyQ goes in again, gets another stun, doesn't have the bomb to follow up just yet, and Paul gets the Crushing Wave just in time. Quig dashes himself back to safety, and actually it's an ultimate from Aurora and Sino over on the left side. Porsche Coast with this ultimate has been so disruptive in these team fights. It's buying so much space
Here
for
comes
the
Baskin.
Hounds.
He teleported. He's behind Coast.
Coast now in danger, does dash away, holds on to the, well, loses the beads a little bit earlier on in the trade, which is why that ultimate was used in trade of it. But now, Eldritch Hounds will be safe. The Styx Ferrymen bailed out by Baskin's teleport.
Yeah, I mean, that was an aggressive play on a Coast. He beads, starts the turn. Sino says, oh man, this dude's got hands, I'm running. And then of course Baskin teleports in to try and put Coast down. Even with that low amount of mana, it gets out. I would say everything so far has been Hound's favor, but look at that Gold Fury. Already, Cyclone has started up. It's getting very low. Quig and Ducky trying to go in for the steal, and they've reset it.
Ducky gallops in and is able to pull that one away. Baskin just grabbed BennyQ, does get the beads away from the Agni for the first time this game. Boulder off the mark from hitting BennyQ, but does clip Coast to get Gold Fury. Still has not been pulled back yet by the Ferrymen. Just now started once more. Some heals in from Aurora, but low health bars on the Eldritch Hounds. BennyQ in no position to step forward. Instead, it's Ducky who goes in, takes the ultimate. The Ferrymen get the Gold Fury, but Oath finds a dunk into the backline, but there's no follow-up for him. BennyQ's too low and too far back to do anything about it. The Eldritch Hounds on the run as the Styx Ferrymen try and close in the gap after their Gold Fury secured. Ducky clipped by the ultimate, and now a double bomb in by BennyQ from the sideline. Triple does clip Paul. Quig wants to find a path out. He needs an ally, but there's no one to bail him out. It's 2 for Paul.
And now the ultimate comes through. It looks like Baskin was going for the kill onto BennyQ. Look at these low health bars. Can Oath find anything from a wall here? Doesn't seem like it. And all the while, the Styx Ferrymen make out like bandits. I mean, that was a great start to the fight from the Eldritch Hounds. They just couldn't find anything. All the while, Cyclone Spin solos the Pyromancer. They get both objectives there, J-Mac. I don't think they should have been able to, but they pull it off. I mean, the Eldritch Hounds stick around a bit too long. Oath was very patient on that ultimate, arguably too patient. He sat by and said, are they on it? Are they on it? Are they on it? Ult's a little bit too late. Was not able to find much. And then the Styx Ferrymen helped chase down, and now they've got relatively commanding gold lead here. Of course, BennyQ still looks good because he's got 4 kills to his name. Besides that, we see a 2-level lead for Baskin. Oath has been able to find a 1-level discrepancy here from Sino. And it looks like, yeah, Aurora pulled 2 levels ahead of Quig as well. The Styx Ferrymen, they've got no problems with this. As long as they're able to keep BennyQ in check, there's no one on the side of the Hounds that's that much of a threat.
Baskin going for a very support-oriented style of build. Sovereignty and Heart Ward in slot for him, providing quite a few auras to his teammates when he is standing around them. BennyQ finds a double stun, pops some decent damage over towards Sino, but Paul goes in, sashed by Sino, does hit to BennyQ, no beads, and should be dead on landing. It's Paul with the Crushing Wave to put himself on a killing spree. Double tap with a boulder, knockup is good, and one more shot. It's a double for Aurora, 1 for Paul. 3 down on the Hounds. And a tier 1 tower under threat.
And yep, that should be a Fire Giant call. Ducky's nearby, has ultimate, but he's got 3 items to his name, and I don't know if he wants to step into the danger zone here from the Styx Ferrymen. Sino goes real deep because he knows BennyQ doesn't have the beads. You saw Quick try to CC Paul, but this time he said, hey, I'm not beadsing. I'm pre-ulting this stun to make sure that BennyQ goes down. And what I say, when Benny's gone, the damage on the Eldritch Hounds really falls off.
Baskin shoves Coast away. Ducky's trying to get back in this fight, but he's not very healthy to do so. If Vapor's goes forced out, the Styx Ferrymen will grab themselves a Fire Giant. Took them a little longer than they maybe anticipated, but with only the threat of Ducky and Coast and no ultimate by Coast to get those extra ranged autos, it's a Fire Giant for the Ferrymen, 2 tier 1 towers, and a continued push up the right side for a moment before the team calls back to spend up the massive pockets of gold that they've gotten, because that was what, Gold Fury, Pyromancer, 3 kills, 2 towers, and a Fire Giant all for him.
You think Baskin finishes Emp Armor there?
I think he finishes it more.
He doesn't have...
Oh,
he looks for the Midgard. Okay, I was going to say, I assumed it would have been Midgard up until you get a 19-minute Fire Giant and you realize, hey, Phoenixes might hurt. But it looks like not the biggest worry for the Styx Ferryman. He will just commit to the Midgard. That means he's got a ton of HP. I mean, he's going to be pushing like 3,800 once he gets to level 20. This Hercules will be a threat. So far at 3K, but he's got plenty more upgrades to go. But already, the kin size from Vapor's Coast will get some value. Solo Reaver on the way here for BennyQ. Does not have them yet, though, which means this Hercules will be a little bit scarier. I think Baskin has been on point so far. I've seen so many pulls in from this Earthshaker, and it's difficult to try and deal with Baskin. He just pops his seal, walks up, goes for a pull, and it looks like Ducky's already to the skies.
Ducky lands back down into a boulder and a whole heap of damage from Cyclone. Aurora's low, though, because there's a BennyQ who dashes back out to the rest of his team. Paul tries to get in, but just misses on connecting to Oath, and it's now Baskin in danger. One bomb would have done it, but it was missed by BennyQ, and the heal goes through for Baskin. Cyclone still pushing in. Quig
going in,
drops in with the ultimate alongside Coast, who gets the slow onto Baskin. But who will Coast target? He gets shoved against the wall, and Sino and Cyclone take him down. BennyQ forward, but Paul is here to answer back. Crushing wave. Aegis out, the bead's gone. Couple more shots would do it, but it's a wall to save his life. And now it's Cyclone spin on a killing spree. Bomb lands to Paul, but it's a 2-for-3 trade.
I mean, you get Fire Giant off of 2. I just cannot believe that Quig brought his team forward. Not only that, Coast dashed in with only his Aegis to show for himself, gets punched against the wall, and so much damage. The Styx Ferrymen grab the tier 2 tower, and they'll be able to grab this Primal Fury as well. Remember, Ducky teleported in and immediately got taken up to the sky. This is what Mifflin was warning about on the desk. When Sino goes Naja, he says, hey, serrated Titan's Bane, tanks. Like that's the call. That's the end of the play call, and it's been working out. He just absolutely shreds whoever he takes up into the sky, and hopefully the follow-up is there, and more often than not, the follow-up is there. Styx Ferryman. It's dangerous to be a tanky character, with quotes around tanky, around this sort of draft. And they still have 2 more tier 2 towers to try and go through, with the lead they've already accumulated. If the Eldritch Hounds don't put up a defense, could be dangerous, but the Fire Giant is gone, which means the Pyromancer may be the only thing the Hounds have to worry about for the time being.
Pyromancer for the Ferrymen. Hounds not anywhere near to try and stop this one down. More secure, more objective pressure for the Styx Ferrymen. Towers no longer that safe for the Eldritch Hounds. A decent fight on the left side, getting a couple of picks, but it's onto Sino, it's onto Aurora. Not really optimal targets for Fire Giant buff. But it did wear off anyway, so maybe saving that they only lose their tier 2 tower during all of that, plus a couple of members of their team. The Eldritch Hounds are quickly falling behind here, though, Charlie. It's a 7,000 gold deficit between the two teams. The Hounds try and answer with a tower of their own, but with Cyclone and Sino showing up, not much they can do to continue their push on left side. So, as we get ready to reset over towards the Fire Giant, with this kind of a deficit that the Hounds have, is there a real strong point for them to come back in one of these fights?
I'm thinking steal potential is your better option. But it seems like the Ferrymen are already at that Fire Giant, and the Hounds are already giving it up. They're going to start pushing down this tier 2 tower. Baskin certainly has to back because of how quickly this is going down. He will have to defend that Phoenix. And honestly, I was going to say, if Coast ults, they might be able to shred this even before they get here. It looks like Sino had to back as well, and Quig is just trying to get his team out of trouble, and he will. Fire Giant drops, and the Phoenix lives to see another day. It just seems like too much. I mean, you're not in endgame territory where it's an enhanced Fire Giant, so you don't have to throw your game to try and defend. And of course, no one from the Eldritch Hounds really feels confident enough stepping up to the Styx Ferrymen. I mean, Benny Q has all of the kills. Like I said, Oath hasn't found too much value on this Thor. Ducky isn't very tanky in comparison to what the Styx Ferrymen can dish out. Coast is looking fine. But with the amount of CC that the Ferrymen have, and the fact that the front line can't stand up with him, I mean, he can't just stand at the forefront of the fight and pump auto attacks and expect not to get knocked up by Paul for half his health or CC'd by Sino or Aurora. Just not easy.
Baskin really has been maybe the biggest thorn in the Eldritch Hounds side from game 1 and now here in game number 2. This Hercules has been able to find so much value for the Styx Ferrymen, and now push back up to the left side. Still 2 towers standing on the map. One in mid, one over in the solo lane, but the Ferrymen are going to ignore that and instead make a beeline towards the enemy Phoenix that's already been exposed. Could force a full 5-on-5 fight around the objective. Baskin's going to drop a ward down in the jungle and keep vision, while Paul and Sino make their way through on this rotation. Full 5. Baskin misses out on the stun. Cyclone does get hit by that one, but the shield from Aurora's starter item. That heroism making sure to keep him healthy and not take too much damage.
Paul takes a double tap from Oath over the wall, but sustained from Aurora. Should be able to keep him relatively healthy. This is a slow siege. Remember, there's still 2 tier 2 towers available, and the Styx Ferrymen are feeling confident they can go in for a bird here. Not the easiest structure to try and grab. And Benny Q has been using those bombs to try and deter the Styx Ferrymen from stepping forward. Baskin looks fine though, and it's all up to Cyclones, but he's not doing a lot of damage. He's going to have to auto this something like 20 times if he really wants to get the Phoenix down. But the sustain has mean the Styx Ferrymen don't have to care about the Pope.
What? Benny
He's
Q
gone?
dashed forward.
What?
Paul picks up an instant double kill. He's going to make it a triple kill on Coast of the backline. Could it be a quad for Paul? Quick and slow. That's 4 for the champ himself. Paul wants to get that 5th one. Oath goes up to the sky. Where will the dunk down be? Paul's getting some defense from his squad, but Oath's buy time lands in. Oath is low, but not low enough. Paul can't get that. Penta himself gets pushed back, and it's enough. Unofficial Penta kill for Paul in game 2 for the Ferrymen.
I cannot believe that ultimate. Paul goes through with the crushing wave, says shut up, and just deletes 2 and does not stop there. I'm going to give it to him. I don't know if you would as well. That quadra was earned, and of course, Oath stalled in the air as long as he could. But that was definitely an unofficial pentakill for the Hebo. They talked about it on the desk. There's a reason this pick is scary. And I alluded to it a little bit, saying this Phoenix siege might be difficult. Paul makes it very easy.
I think Benny Q made it easy for him because Benny Q dashed forward at Paul and said, okay, cool. We're fighting. Whether that was a misclick, I'm not entirely sure.
It had to have been.
But Benny Q dashes forward. That opens the door for Paul to hit the gas pedal, or I should say the crushing wave. Got the official quadra accolade, not the penta, but essentially gets the penta in our hearts here, though don't think that one will officially count as far as the season goes through. But what a way to end game number 2 for the Styx Ferrymen. I mean, such a tight-knit game to start this one out, and then in one fell swoop, it was what? Fury, Pyro, a Fire, Towers, all in the name of the Styx Ferrymen. They blow this game wide open and the set. Now, match point for the Styx Ferrymen. Can they close out in 3? We'll find out right after this.
Me a the burning fire and natural born killer. When me bust into flame, watch out, some might sting. You better turn it, I am make the bad boy bigger. When they come around, we all go on them. Listen to the word and the fire you catch in the middle. When the flames catch higher, put up your gun fingers. Return all of the fire, it's a bad man single, give a sign. Put your gun finger trigger. Return all of the fire, it's a one man single, give a sign. Put your gun finger trigger. Put your gun finger trigger. are the burning fire and natural born killer. When me bust it to flame, watch out, some might sting ya. So turn it, I am make the bad boy bigger. When they come around, we all go on them. Listen to the word and they buy your cuts in the middle. When the flames get higher, put up your gun fingers. Return all of the fire, it's a bad man signal, give a sign. And pull your gun finger trigger. Gun finger trigger. Gun finger trigger. Gun finger trigger. Return all of the fire, it's a bad man signal, give a sign. And pull your gun finger trigger. And pull your gun finger trigger. And pull your gun finger trigger. It's a bad man signal, give a sign. And pull your gun finger trigger.
Figure out what kind of words to use to describe this one, and I'll start here with the basics. 2-0 for the Ferrymen. That much is pretty simple to get to. Honestly, the game's actually really simple to break down. I don't think that we need to do much more than talk about Paul and Hebo and say oof after that one, man. I mean, there's a lot of things I think that the Hounds could maybe try to work on there, but that pick just got out of hand, and it happened quick.
So we'll start with went well for the Hounds.
Yeah.
Benny Q. All right, we're done. Styx Ferrymen absolutely dominate this game, man. It just felt like the initiation was clean. Paul, of course, essentially just a lot of free farm, as Paul generally does. Maybe a tumble here or there, but not exactly enough to slow down the GOAT, and he looks incredibly good on it.
Penta, man.
Delayed pentakill.
I'm
You know
gonna
what?
Just call it a penta.
I'm kind of mad at Oath and how he played it.
Yeah.
He could have insta-dunked and either killed Paul or given up the opportunity for a penta. He stayed in the air for as long as possible, and I guarantee you this, Gore, having been on the other side of it, having been the penta guy, the comms in the team for the Eldritch Hounds there are, don't give him the penta. Absolutely do not do it. That is 100% the call, and Oath executes on it, but it kind of hurts us a little bit, and the viewers at home. Getting a little penta accolade on the screen, something I would have liked to have seen. The Eldritch Hounds need to figure out how they're going to get into that back line now, because there's 2 games in a row where Paul is just putting up immense damage, finding priority targets, and essentially goes untouched. If he's allowed a crushing wave into your back line at 100% HP and ends it just about at 100% HP, something has clearly gone wrong. Maybe you need Oath on a more dedicated diver. Maybe you get Ducky on somebody that could simply just W key. But Paul needs to be restricted. 8-1 and 6. Classic Paul slash line there. Can't be allowed to happen if you want to win.
There's a lot of times, and for a while there, I actually remember, and this is the thing that's really funny. When the Ferrymen are winning and Paul goes 8-1 and 6, you're going to see a lot of Paul praise. If the Ferrymen lose but Paul goes 8-1 and 6, you're going to get like a lot of people out there like, oh, he's just a KDA player. It's all he ever does. Paul's a menace, and I think that's the what needs to be adjusted. It goes back to what we were saying, right? You banned Hell, which in this case against this team is a Paul ban. You banned the Baba Yaga, which was a Paul ban. We saw how he played in Game 1. But then you invested in Ganesh and Ares and left a lot of picks that were still good for Paul open. And unfortunately, they end up testing the Hebo, and the Terra works out wonderfully for them. Everybody there, look, he had the big accolades. Of course, we're going to talk Paul. Everybody there on the team, though, for the Ferrymen, play incredibly well. I think you had said it, but I'm going to continue latching onto it. This Hercules for Baskin has been so good.
You want to give him a mana? I'm not banning the Herc.
Yeah, I don't want to. No, I don't want. Well, I don't want that.
You want him on tier? That was pretty good too.
No, I don't think I want that either. But I think I might prefer that to like letting.
Yeah.
Paul have man.
It's a hard question, ain't it?
Yeah. So here's the thing about when you get into picks and bans. So this is always a fun little theory thing. When you look at the Ferryman's top picks, I'm going to tell you just for the first phase. And you can tell me how many of them have been high priority here. Top 3 are Guan Yu, Ram, and Horus. They don't give a damn about any of those. Then you get to like Ganesh and Hell and Hercules and Baba Yaga. Those are all tied at 5 games for them throughout the phase. And you'll never guess it, but a lot of them have a pretty good win rate for them as well, depending on where they were thrown. So I think the moral of the story that we have been learning, if the Ferrymen get something they're comfortable on and that they're happy with, it's going to be difficult. They do ban out the Naja, though. That was a ban in Game 1. Sino locked in Game 2, something that they, I think, realized maybe a little too late was troublesome. Hebo gets banned as well, so the Hounds are adapting specifically to last game. Their first pick this time, Mifflin, so they could theoretically take the Hebo or the Vamana for themselves.
Could take the Vamana for themselves, but they leave open Baba Yaga as well, which has been just a ridiculous pick for Paul. I think I might value, I certainly do value Vamana a bit higher than Baba Yaga. So if that's the trade that the Eldritch Hounds are able to manufacture for themselves, I won't argue against it. We'll see what this last ban is. If that's the case, you have to leave both available, and they do, to take away towards the Hell. It's not exactly an Aurora pick, not anymore. He was one of the first ones to play it once these mage supports became a bit more viable. Has since then veered away a bit, gone back towards his more standard aggressive selections like Ganesh, Terra, and a whole lot of Horus as of recent. So I don't think that Hell ban is going to affect the Styx Ferrymen too much, and the Ferrymen won't be giving up the Vana themselves. Instead, it's Hachiman, first overall for the Hounds. Incredulous from me in that I just really thought the Hounds would be putting a whole lot of eyes on that Baba Yaga on the other side. I would be surprised as well if the Styx Ferrymen don't take it here, because it's unlikely the Hounds would let it through again. Hachiman is a good boxer. He's safe in lane. I'll say it every time. He's got decent CC. He's got phenomenal range. Hasn't been doing the most winning. Baba Yaga has when it's been Paul piloting it. This is a scary let-through. Worth noting, the dominance from Paul in the previous match, absolutely ridiculous. Unofficial pentakill to end the game. Not even half the damage he had done on the Baba Yaga. As far as raw numbers are concerned, Paul's going to be tanky, and he's going to be hitting real hard.
And you know what? That's pretty much the exact spot you want Paul to be
I
in.
can't believe the Ferrymen got this top 2 gore. I just can't believe it.
Hercules, Baba Yaga, seems clean. Horus, Discordia. I will give credit to it, because while the Hachi's been finally stripped away, Cyclone's going to have to find himself on something different for the first time in a little while.
12-21.
Horus has been all right for them. I don't know if I'm sold on it over some of the other picks that we've been seeing in support so far for the Hounds, but they're going back to it, and I don't have heavy complaints about that pick. Discordia looked really good for the Hounds yesterday, though, in Game 1. Game 2 didn't quite come out as clean. Game 3 as well. And so if you're looking at just the wins and maybe the games themselves, not that great. But I feel like there were more than just the mid lane that were struggling in some of those King matchups. So I like Vinny Q on this one. I think you had even given him props in one of those desks because he jumps forward in the fight.
My man Benny is moving up. All right, he's getting aggressive. All right, retreat not in his dictionary.
Maybe we'll see some of that here. I guess it depends on how the game goes. You'd like to not be in that position. Then you get Hercules, Baba, Shibalanke for the Ferrymen. This is maybe the slowest their picks and bans have gone. They've been very decisive up to this point.
Yeah, both teams are pretty decisive, and one has remained decisive because they've been on losing so far. It's the Hounds that are reeling right now. Need to figure out what that adaptation is. Gore, even just looking at what the Ferrymen have got, trying to imagine what is going through Oath's mind and what picks he would want to play. As a jungler myself, I'm looking at this draft and I'm thinking to myself, what would I want here? There's not exactly a great answer. That Surcat would have been great. Would have loved to have seen that top 3 for the Eldritch Hounds, but hold off on their pick, and now O's going to have to dig a little bit deeper into his God pool. He's gone towards the Alquang in positions like this in the past, but I'm not so certain I love Alquang into this draft. Bakasura, I mean, I suppose. Bakasura can close gap on a Baba Yaga, but the Home Sweet Home, essentially the channel of Home Sweet Home takes as long as Bakasura is CC immune. So you're going to have that knockback as self-peel pretty consistently, meaning that Bakasura is going to struggle to connect some of those auto attacks in the late game, especially post-Prophetic Cloak, where Paul's just surviving the first 5 or 6 regardless. So this is a tough game for the Eldritch Hounds. Always comes down to execution on field. At the end of the day, if you just play better, it doesn't necessarily matter how much stronger on paper the draft is or might be for the Styx Ferrymen. And it's not to say that the Hounds even got a poor composition by any stretch of the imagination. Horus has been a highly contested pick. Terra as well, incredibly powerful. Bakasura has been first pick, first ban for a little while too. But something about the Hercules and Baba Yaga together for the Styx Ferrymen and how well those two gods have individually served the Styx Ferrymen just gives me a whole lot of faith in this draft.
I'll say it because I love it. I'm a big fan of Maui, just in general. Feel like it's been interesting that he hasn't been towards the top. Granted, it's been because we've seen a lot of healers, right? When you can grab a Yamoja or maybe a Terra. Interesting to see him show his face again, but he's locked in here for a Roar. And beside that is something Sino was having a great time with on the world stage, the Thanatos, to close things out. And so even though those last 3 picks for the Ferryman Mifflin are not things that they've been playing a ton lately, and the last 2 are some that we haven't seen maybe in months at this point, I don't know. They're pulling me over to their side, but I will admit I think that Maui has such good engage for your teams. Terra luckily has knock-up immunity, right? There's a lot to maybe try and combat that. A jump out in the event that things go wrong for Bakasura, trying to get past the like wall, the island, the landfall. But it feels like if you're looking to put pressure on and you've got a Shibalanke who likes to fight behind you, Maui's going to lead him pretty well to water, and same thing for the Thanatos.
Yeah, and you even talk about the counter-initiation potential that this Maui has got. So often it's going to be Bakasura, maybe a blink forward, instant regurgitate, and Maui says, nope, come here, get off of Paul, right? Yep. And you're just out of that immediately, and you've got a massive wall spawned up to keep Paul alive as well. So it feels like there is a whole lot that Maui can do, even outside the ultimate. What's the answer to Bakasura? It's walking faster. Move away. He's got very short-range auto attacks and for a short duration, slightly longer-ranged auto attacks. Well, you've got a Heavenly Sprint hard-baked into your kit. And you could even build another Heavenly Sprint on top of that to make yourself move even faster. there are very good peel options for the Styx Ferrymen. I think that for the most part, the Eldritch Hounds and the difficulty that they'll see is connecting with priority targets. The way forward for the Hounds, I think, is to focus out this Thanatos. We've seen great games from Sino on this pick. We've seen quieter games from Sino. Generally, he likes to play for that mid game. So often Thanatos is the, hey, did you hit your first scythe in the match? If yes, great. You're rolling. Oh, you missed your first scythe? You're going to have a really quiet game. The Sino forgoes all that, says, well, what about Thanatos passive? I'll just stay on the map the entire time and pull a lead because I never went back to base. So for the first 7 or so levels, I think it's likely that Sino is just going to keep his head down, focused in the jungle, farming up, and waiting for maybe a second item power spike. If that's the case, that's an opening for Oath on the other side to maybe create a bit of pressure.
For like 2 years, and I promise this has a point where I'm going to, the longest held triple-double was Sam for Soccer on a Thanatos.
Fair enough.
It ended up getting, last year I was like Jake and like 3 others in that game, something ridiculous, where everybody kind of re-upped on that towards the end of that, the Season 9. But Thanatos is just as good at getting kills as getting killed, it feels like, in a lot of those. And so I'm going to ask, because it feels like he's one of the only gods I can ask this on, do you think we see a triple-double from Sino this game?
Sino's
or do you
not
bank
that
on
kind
it?
of
I was
guy.
going to say, do you bank on him getting kills or killed? Not both.
Sino's not a triple-double guy. Some people are triple-double animals, okay? The Sam for Soccer's, the PBMs, that type of player. Sino's not that guy.
Sino's just not that guy.
I don't think so. I think if we see a triple,
if we see a triple, it's a triple kill.
It's a triple kill, right? If we see a double, it's only in the kill column there for Sino, or maybe only the deaths. I don't see it going all the way across.
Well, I can always hope, right? I mean, we got a delayed Penta last time around, and so maybe we'll get to see something spectacular this time as well. But to make it maybe more grounding, right? It's levity, fun, happy, whatever. This is an elimination game now. Hounds, they lose, they're out. That's it. There's money on the line for them, seeding on the line, going into Masters, a lot of things that can make their lives a lot easier. And losing here makes that just blanket statement more difficult. You find yourself facing an SEC team to then have to try and fight against either the Ravens or the Warriors, which is not a very fun spot to be in. So looking at it through the lens of the Hounds that need to win this, what are their odds?
Oh, man. Bookie odds or Mifflin odds? Let's do bookie odds.
Okay, bookie.
Let's go bookie odds.
I was going to make you give me both.
I would say this is... Man, look at the... 3-7 Ferrymen.
3-7 Ferrymen. We'll see how well that plays out, and if it plays out that way, it's do or die for the Hounds here in Game 3.
Yeah, the Eldritch Hounds need to stop the Styx Ferrymen here, and not only stop them here, but we've got to make the full reverse sweep to keep their sets on the line and keep themselves alive here in the SPL playoffs. It's J-Mac, Trelly, and Doug here for game number 3 of the best of 5. Just to give some context, at least the history of this match. The first time the Hounds and the Ferrymen face off in the phase, it's a 2-0 for the Eldritch Hounds. The second time that they face off, Trelly, it's a 2-0 for the Styx Ferrymen, then forces a tiebreaker, and the Styx Ferrymen win that one. So now puts themselves 3-2 in their direct matchup. And now, with 2 wins here, the Styx Ferrymen have won 5 straight games up against the Eldritch Hounds. The Hounds have got to find a way to stop that momentum.
I love that Paul not only does the correct strat, which you would expect, to get 2 potions at the start of the game, but he was actually throwing them in base to just try and get like a better concoction. He was just like, I don't like this one. And he was like throwing it, trying to get the best one for clear. I don't think he ended up getting the best combination anyways, because he got a few blue ones. But in this case, he was at least trying to maximize his odds just for like 0.5 second clear time. Like that's the only benefit to rotating your potions there. A little bit of a scrap early on. Quig and Coast did hit level 2 here. Aurora, oh, he should definitely be dying. He's going to be stuck, but he found a way out. I thought he was stuck in, but he wasn't.
He just barely squeaked out. Wait, did Coast put himself forward again? They're ignoring the main wave. They're fighting at the tier 1 tower. Guys, there's a wave behind you, but Quig and Coast don't care. They're
if
level 2.
They clear it and they hit level 2, yeah, Aurora and Cyclone have to step up.
But Coast will hit that too. Cyclone and Aurora haven't hit that yet, haven't gotten enough minions
They stole
to their
purple
name
too.
to do so.
It's
and
gonna be
a purple
so
buff
long.
taken away. Man, it's gonna be so hard
Ooh.
for them. Benny Q on the opposite side. He'll be the one going down low for the Eldritch Hounds, where the luxury afforded to the Ferrymen, or to the Hounds in the dual lane for Quig and Coast to get ahead. Now Bennyq's got to sit a little bit further back, but a couple of good shots against Sino. Oath can chase this one out, but Paul finds the slow on top of Oath, and that will keep him from chasing Sino.
Oath still has the blink, though. Sino does not. So Oath could eat a minion, blink in, try and get some Butcher Blades procs, but if you get hit by the Scythe, that's it. That's the end of the engagement. I should say it could be the end of your life if Paul hits the magic. One more auto will do it!
You can't step up to Paul. This man is a menace. Stop giving him the Baba Yaga. Stop thinking that you can square off against Paul, because time and time again, you put your whole team in the dirt at the end of last game. He's going to do the same to Oath here in game 3.
Everyone's asking what's he cooking, and we know the answer. It's the beans.
It's the beans, bro.
It is the beans, and Paul gets first blood with a smile on his face. Not actually. He actually has not moved his facial expression at all. But that's what you would expect, because he's just gaming. Exactly. And that's just run of the mill. And I will say, that was a misplay from Oath. Blink in, hey, I can kill Sino. Oh wait, he healed with Death Scythe and I'm slowed. Now I'm dead. That was the only way that could go, unless you somehow are juking the Death Scythe, which he didn't even attempt. So I'm thinking, no real reason to aggress onto Sino there, unless you think you're not getting hit by that Death Scythe.
I'll jump onto Sino.
This is a lot better.
Sets up the route for Bennyq. Now Sino trying to run as fast as he can. Does pop the wing shot for the extra speed, but Oath blinks in to cut off the path, and one more chop away will take down Sino. So now, 1 kill for the jungle of the Eldritch Hounds, 1 kill for the mid of the Styx Ferrymen to try and answer back through, but maybe arguably Paul with the better end of that one, though. Caught by Quig here to the back line. Green buff stolen away by Quig. So unfortunate for Paul, unable to secure that buff for himself. But now, the Eldritch Hounds getting a little bit of fight back in him.
Yeah, I'm curious how much Cyclone Spin's going to be hurting from the start that the Eldritch Hounds decided to go for. He's been under tower a lot, as you would expect. I think through the entirety of this match, he has been behind in lane. It hasn't been too much of an issue, though. He usually gets to late game just fine and is able to do his job, but still, the amount of pressure that could be going through to duo lane might start to add up here for Cyclone, and maybe Coast is able to get something done, or Oath could make a rotation in, all of which could be very impactful here for the Hounds. But it looks like Cyclone's going to be just fine. Aurora is going to be behind, but of course Cyclone hits over to level 5. So he's got his ultimate, and he's got decent clear. He may just be a little bit behind with reaching that dev gauntlets, getting those stacked up. That could be the main issue. But if you're just trying to just maintain parity and stick around, that's not going to be the end of the world. Aurora, however, being level 3 does start to add up, especially if you get aggressed upon here. It'd be nice if you had your ultimate, some more points in your abilities, but this Maui, unfortunately, he's got a hook and a cloud of dust. That's about it.
It certainly hurts being in a position like Aurora is right now, being 2 levels down to your opposition, at least your direct lane opponent in Quig, just now procs over to level 4. We'll have at least a little bit of help as it goes through. Goes pulled back by the hook, but unfazed by the CC from Aurora, knowing that Cyclone is maybe more focused on clearing up this wave, just because Cyclone needs to get a little bit of extra gold for how much he's been pushed under that tower. Sino seems undeterred even by the death that he took earlier on, still holding on. Just about a half level down to Oath, but the good thing about this Thanatos is you don't need to kill them all the way, you just need to get them most of the way there, and then execute. Can try and finish the job now. 2v2 on the right-hand side of the map. Baskin goes down quickly to Ducky and Oath in combination, and Sino can only sit back and watch as his solo falls.
All the while, Paul was able to get a kill onto Bennyq in mid. I do think it was a solo kill. It didn't seem like he had any other help. Yeah, Aurora's over here. He was able to 1v2 and kill Bennyq with Quig around, but Ghost tries to get the 1v2 of his own. Not enough damage. Aurora lives to see another day. Paul's level 7, though. This is going to become an issue. Of course, I think Baskin knew exactly where Oath was because Sino was nearby and saw him and probably said, hey, see if you can step up so you can go in here. He driving strikes, unfortunately, did not have the DPS, did not have the damage to confirm a kill. Baskin ends up going down to the gank from Oath. So 2-1 now for the Bakasura, which is a great start. He's using that influence throughout the entirety of the map. Quig has been getting so much farm. I mean, he got the first purple. He stole away the second green buff. He was there for the next purple buff. Yeah, he's level 7 as a support. If Aurora gets lost on the way to another wave, Quig will be double his level. And that is ridiculous. Luckily, he hit 5. Okay, it's way harder to do now. Getting 10 to 5 8-4 is way easier. 10-5 becomes much more difficult, but still, Quig is very far ahead.
Yeah, every level that Aurora takes up makes it have to be twice the effort of Quig to try and get that double up there. So
That's some quick math.
it's about the fastest math I'll probably do in my life, aside from 2 + 2 is 5.
Wait, hold up.
The Eldritch Hounds, though, able to find themselves a couple of picks here. Same with the Styx Ferrymen, tying this one up 2-2. Makes that 5 kills. Makes it 4 kills.
Stop.
I was going to double down. I'm like, now we'll end that one here.
I mean, you said quick math. You didn't say correct math.
Correct,
So-
exactly.
Yeah.
I never said I was good at math.
Yep.
I said I could do it fast.
There you go. So probably going to be some pressure in mid lane just by nature of Paul, but Oath is still using his influence throughout the entirety of the map. Remember, 2 kills, that's fine. But the fact that he's invading buffs, making Cyclone Spin's life miserable, he's running over to the right side of the map, making sure that Baskin feels that influence, is exactly how you have to play this Bakasura, especially when there's the looming threat of Paul, who's level 9 and he's top farm in the game, and he's getting online as quickly as possible. It's one thing to just sit back and say, hey, I'm going to farm better. But when you know that your team is down 2-0 in this set, you got to do the extra, a little bit more. Cyno definitely going to have to ult out here. Does he get up in time? Yes. Close. That hovering death couldn't have came any sooner.
Gets out just in time. Forest Coast, known for being one who likes to go for these early boxing matches, go for these 1v1s against the enemy. Does at least force Cyclone Spin back, will keep him busy at the wave, and that leaves Aurora by himself to try and get away from Oath and from Coast now. Aurora will be fine. Cyclone Spin sitting under the tower just to get that farm back up. Purple buff wasn't there, and maybe fortunate for the Styx Ferrymen it wasn't up, because the Eldritch Hounds all in position to try and go for that. But now it's Cyno walking back in. No ultimate, staring down the combo of Oath and Quig. Not a lot of damage thrown over towards Cyno. I would have thought with an ultimate used by Quig, it would have been more focused down, but they just gave up the push.
Yeah, Oath is a Bakasura without an ultimate, which I like to compare to a large minion. He doesn't do enough damage by himself. With a stun like that, yeah, that's going to be absolutely free. Coast sets up nicely for his jungler. And now, try and save your purple buff all you want. Not going to help. The other towns make sure to grab that invade, and Aurora is going to have to jump over the wall. Great play there from Coast, just catching out Cyno. This Thanatos is having some struggles. I mean, you don't have the beads. This blink has been used aggressively, I believe, once. And because of that, Oath is just finding him in the jungle consistently. In this case, Coast also found him. Oath got credit for the kill. But Cyno's going to have to watch his back. I mean, ward coverage is going to be a big deal. Ulting in after your team starts the fight. Probably the only way we see Cyno get aggressive anymore.
And then you always got the looming threat of Paul for the Styx Ferrymen. Or even in last game where he's going down a couple of kills to Benny Q. Benny gets, I believe, a 2-level lead at one point. Was up 5-6-1 in kills compared to Paul. Well, Paul on the Hebo didn't matter for him. Just waited till late game, found that opportunity. Gets the delayed pentakill to end out game number 2. And then now starts with 2 kills here in game number 3. Still tied at least in XP with Benny Q. And Aurora, nowhere for him to go. Just barely gets the swing away, but it's landed right into the wall by Quig. But Paul, in another 2v1, this time with the help of Cyno, able to take down Benny Q. But he will knock him down, notch his 3rd kill for himself.
Yep, Cyno didn't blink, didn't ult, was just there to help out. And that's going to be another kill onto this Discordia. So XP-wise, you can tell. I mean, Paul should be pulling ahead here. The solo lane looks relatively even. I think that Oath is closer to level 11 than Cyno. But it's just Cyclone Spin who is taking the real run. The entirety of the duo lane, I should say, as Aurora has also fallen behind. Quig and Coast looking real good. Sometimes you got to use that ultimate to try and confirm a kill here onto Ducky. Hovering Death has to land. Is anyone close by for the dash? Doesn't seem like it's Cyno. Gets his first kill of the game.
After going down twice to Oath and Co., it is now Cyno on the board for himself. 1, 2, and 2 on the Thanatos. Paul under no real threat. Aurora charging up the hook, but just misses on the shot to Quig. Fortunate for Paul, he doesn't miss his shots. Does end up connecting a bit of damage to Quig. But now in a 4v3 potential around the Pyromancer that has just now spawned in. Paul and Aurora, they get taunted in by the strife of Benny Q, but he misses the damage immediately after, and so Styx Ferrymen will just be fine. No real threat around either objective just yet, unless Quig starts losing out some HP. Fast jump in the air by Aurora to get out of the stun.
Yeah, Aurora has to play very carefully. And he doesn't have even close to enough stacks for the Gauntlet of Thebes to fully evolve. And he is constantly under threat here. For plays like this, he might have to ult himself. Will his dash come back up is the question. Nope. Does not matter. I said he has to be careful. I lied. He can't even be careful at this point. The Eldritch Hounds are always looking for free kills to use that pressure. And some decent 1v1 potential here from Coast and Cyclone Spin. Cyclone knows there's an execute that he has to watch out for, and it is the Coast ultimate. If mounted archery comes through and he's low HP with no dash, he will be dying. So Cyclone's going to stay very far back and make sure he's not dying.
Yeah, kind of that 20% health range is right in the sweet spot where Coast wants to put them. But it's Gold Fury pull for the Eldritch Hounds. They've already got a small lead in this game, wanting to extend that just a bit further, and will do so. Too late. Are the 6 Ferrymen on the rotation through, and the first Fury, first objective of the game, goes over to the Eldritch Hounds.
It does. I'm surprised. I saw BennyQ going into that percent pen. I thought it was going to be a Spear of the Magus, but he actually just goes in for Obsidian Shard's second item. Feared that he wanted to do damage to tanks as early as possible, and I guess Paul's building Prophetic Cloak, so that is a tank standing across from you. The Hounds are stepping up, though. Good damage. On to Paul. Ducky's here with CC. It is the Ferrymen who want to try and go for this Pyro. The apple off the mark. I don't think it's going to net too much because look at the rotation in. Cyclone Spin actually made it all the way over here. And if you don't go for the Pyromancer and you make Cyclone, who is already 2 levels down, rotate, he really wasted his time. And it looks like that's the case. Coast is going to go push a wave, while Cyclone Spin has to go all the way back over.
Cyclone does get at least part of the mid wave. Leech a little bit of XP away from Paul at that point through. We'll make it over and probably not lose out on at least too many minions in the wave, but
he's 3 levels behind.
But he misses out on the neutral camp XP. Porsche Coast able to clear out the shield buff. No contest for him. And as you say, 3 levels up. Has that tier 2 balance blade available to him, where Cyclone Spin, prior to that rotation, had just only finished up the kin size and is really started to fall behind. Blink in by Sino to the mid lane. BennyQ under fire, pulled by the hook, and beads are gone. Yanked back by the landfall, dashed in, and it's an ultimate execute for Sino. 2 on the board for the jungle, but 1 in the dirt for Cyclone Spin. Coast and Oath team up for a kill of their own.
Yep, Coast and Oath said, hey, you may die in mid, but we are going to grab a tier 1 tower, possibly even a tier 2. Because if Aurora shows up, what's he doing? He's not, okay, the teleport in from Bastion, which was necessary. Aurora does not clear waves, and he does not threaten Coast and Oath. Just wouldn't happen. I mean, yeah, level 8. Wait, we still might have a double. If Coast gets 1 more level, he'll be double the level of Aurora if he doesn't grab any bit of XP, which again, is an insane amount of farming for Coast, but more specifically, an insane amount of lack of farm there for Aurora. Unfortunate. Hits level 9.
Pyromancer for the Eldritch Hounds, unless Aurora or somebody else has something to do about it. The boulders there, the 6 Ferrymen steal away the Pyromancer, but Aurora may have stepped too far forward. He'll trade out his life for the objective steal. Does pick up the Runic Bomb before he falls down. And it's now 4, 1, and 3 for Oath, a part of all 7 kills for his team. Paul under fire. Ooh. Apple just off the mark. The blast off gets him away from it, and a small sidestep for Paul keeps him from getting tagged.
Yeah, wouldn't have killed. He did have Aegis either way, but still, would have been nice to connect and maybe you see some more dive. And this is massive for Cyclone Spin, getting some free farm where he knows there's no one in his lane.
No.
Unfortunately for Cyclone Spin, there's a Bakasura that's on the way. You will not be able to channel this back, and he's not even trying to. Cyclone, good luck. I don't know where you're going. Maybe you go for the tower, but I don't even think Oath has to ult here. He should be able to get a free kill.
Cyclone gonna turn and burn, get a little bit of damage. Oath ults and body blocks him with the minions, slowing him down. Now 5 in a row, a rampage for Oath to kick off after that first death at the beginning of the game. Has really made a turnaround for himself here in game number 3. And the Eldritch Hounds now with a 3,000 gold lead for themselves as well as 3 kills up. But maybe the most staggering of all of those is the 5k XP, the dual lane. A combined 5 levels down. BennyQ just jukes out the scythe from Sino. But now Kuiga's going to go in. He's already fully upgraded his Blink and his Bracer as well. But at the end of the day, gets the ultimate off of Sino.
Yep, forces out the ult. BennyQ jumps over the Soul Reap and jukes out the Death Scythe. So we'll be in no sort of trouble there. It's unfortunate because the Styx Ferrymen, all they can do is fight around Paul and Sino. That's their best option. Again, Cyclone Spin, 4 levels behind, is just trying to get farm. He does have beads, so shouldn't die here because He didn't even use them. Yeah, that is definitely going to be a mounted archery kill if he can catch it.
Get him?
Around the wall, though, he's good.
He can't get him, and it's a full turnaround now by the Styx Ferrymen, but there's some backup by the Hounds. Ducky transports the team right back in and goes immediately for Paul, keeping the biggest threat out of it. Double ultimate by Aurora. He stuns 2 on lane, but now he's got nowhere to go. Baskin gets a pickup on 1, a push onto 2. Aurora may have been bailed out, but Sino has not. It's 2 down for the Styx Ferrymen, and 3 because Baskin is stuck between a wall, a house, and the entirety of the Hounds.
Wow, I saw Sino blink in to Vapor's Coast with 0 relics, with 20% HP, and lose that 1v1. I don't know what happened in the fight, but I can tell you it didn't look good. The Eldritch Hounds are able to grab the Oni Fury. Paul and Cyclone do live to see another day. It was a beautiful ring around the rosy to make sure that Coast couldn't find that kill. But does it matter when you lose so much in the process? I would say no. Cyclone gets some free farm, but that's about it. The Eldritch Hounds pull ahead heavily after a play like that. Oath 7-1, level 17, doing so much throughout the entirety of this map. Of course, Coast, he went a little bit hard for that solo kill, but didn't end up biting him. He's just fine. Level 18 at the moment, and he has been getting consistent farm. And I'm not going to say it all stems from the start that the Eldritch Hounds went for, but I can tell you, getting your purple buff stolen, hitting level 1 like 30 seconds after your opposition, and just getting put so far behind does not bode well for your laning phase.
It certainly does not feel good. The position that Styx Ferrymen got put in at the beginning of the game, and now threat around Fire Giant. Without Coast here, this would be a very slow Fire Giant for the Eldritch Hounds. Maybe just seeing how many hands of the Ferrymen they can force to the right side of the map. And maybe try and keep Cyclone Spin away from this fight more than anything and try and continue denying farm. He is still 4 levels down to Vapor's Coast. 2 levels down for Aurora. He's been able to shore up some of that gap between him and Quig, but it has been a difficult day for Cyclone Spin here in Game 3.
Yep, sitting at that tier 2 tower, getting his chest buff off cooldown, just saying, hey, I need this extra camp, that's what I'm looking for. And I'm not stepping up to the tower because there could be a Hachiman hiding in the jungle. Pyromancer goes down, and it looks like Ducky will be able to pick up that runic bomb. Aurora still has one, so not like it's that end-all, be-all confirmation. But if I'm Coast, I'm hiding and looking for a dash whenever possible, just because look at that.
Jeez.
Well, I mean, he could have ulted. Of course, Cyclone had ult or dash as well. But that's just a couple auto attacks, man. Those aren't crits. Those are just 3 buffed auto attacks there from Vapor's Coast. He might wrap around. He might try and do it again. Why not? I see no reason why you shouldn't.
Well, I see a reason. It's Sino, but
you think that's the
Coast
reason?
is not going to care about that. He's going to go right through, just get the Aegis away, but lays it out. It's an execute by Sino. The minions, the tower shot, the damage. It's a turnaround. Coast is gone. Sino gets the kill and gives at least a little bit of leeway now to Cyclone in this lane, but the moment he does, Cyclone, you can't one more wave at 2 HP? There's a Bakasur on the map. It's a blink in. Sino bailed you out once. He's going to have to bail you out again. Cyclone wrapping right back to his teammate. Turns around for the auto, but Oath takes down 1. Sino's going to lose out on this one, too. Jump in by Oath. One more shot through, but a quick blink out. But now Paul is here, and he puts him right back down. A 7-0 shutdown for Paul to get this one back through as Aurora grabs 1 in the tower, stuns Ducky. It's the tanks versus 3 to the right, and Aurora doesn't have a leg to stand on. He gets knocked down as Basket tries to take out Ducky. He needs one more shot.
What? He ult.
Ducky sits under tower for a free one. It's chaos across the map.
You could not tell me that ulting there was the correct call. I will not believe you. He took 3 extra tower shots. He would have taken maybe 1 if he got stunned there. I don't know. Regardless, let's dial it back. Cyclone 1 more waves.
Wild.
First of all, yes, wild. But Sino says, okay, no, I gotta take it even further back. Coast has gotten a solo kill ripped away from him by minions twice now. It happened once with Yarkor.
Oh, no.
And now we saw it again.
He's going to play Izanami or Rom the rest of his life so it doesn't happen again.
He keeps using all of his AoE damage, and he's like, oh, it's just 1 more auto attack. What's going to happen? The wave body blocks it? Yes, twice now, which isn't that much, but still. It is annoying to Coast that it's happened twice. Sino comes through, gets the kill. Shutdown comes through. Paul gets credit for it. And now Fire Giant is being looked at by the Styx Ferrymen. The Hounds are on the way, but they're a little late to the party. They just showed up, and it's already so weak.
Ducky's here. There's a Runic Bomb in pocket for both teams. One of those is in the hand of Ducky this time through, but Fire Giant will be reset. Baskin rooted out by Quig, and a fast reset by the Ferrymen. Sino running from Oath, but Oath can't close out the gap. And the rest of the Ferrymen to bail him out. Golden Apple hits only Paul, and he'll soak up that damage, no problem. But now the Eldritch Hounds are the ones to pull the Fire Giant. Sino's been forced back to base. Aurora dashes in, finds the sun onto one, Darks the Knights through for Cyclone Spin to cut off the vision of the Hounds, and they're walking right into the damage of Paul. But Paul's going to be just fine. Ducky now channeling ultimate to get away. It just barely does so this time.
Oh, here he comes.
So the Execute is here. Sino's willing to make that dive in if he has the chance, but he's too far out of range. Instead, dives on Oath, finds the damage, and gets the beats from the Bakasura.
You have too fast, and that's a good call just to grab the beads and retreat, and it looks like the Styx Ferrymen are not going to continue this siege. They had the opportunity. They pull the Fire Giant, and they aren't able to grab too much off it. But the Eldritch Hounds show that they can still make a defense as well. I was surprised when I saw the Eldritch Hounds siege forward and just no damage came through. They didn't have the follow-up because they still were in a pretty commanding position. Again, it's just Paul who is ahead. Everyone else is playing at a deficit here for the Styx Ferrymen. Baskin needs to get a little bit tankier. He would love to finish that item. Love to hit level 20. Once again, this time the Hounds were making the pull. Oath blinks in, he catches the dash from Paul. Can't even get away. The apple connects. That's killing him for sure.
Yeah, it's either Oath or the apple, and this time it's Oath who gets the kill. Baskin finds the pick up onto one, throws the Sunder to hit a couple there as well, but now cut off by Quig, just barely snakes away from the stun of the wall. Baskin's gonna separate himself, let the rest of his team get the bailout. Might get body blocked, won't even get a chance to use his cooldowns. Gets the push onto one, but can't get the boulder in time. Oath, who is shut down at 7-1, has now already put 3 more on the board.
Ducky's ulting. Seems like he's going towards Fire Giant. The Styx Ferrymen don't know if they're going towards the Phoenix or what. They do ult towards the FG. Only 24 minutes in, so it's not enhanced. It's not the biggest deal in the world. But still, massive here for the Eldritch Hounds to get Oath back on a great streak. So much damage comes through. And Oath catching out Paul's dash ends up being massive in that fight. Uses the Aegis, uses the beads. Benny Q connects with the apple, and Oath gets credit for the kill. Well deserved for the jungler of the Eldritch Hounds. Styx Ferrymen will be able to grab the Primal Fury, and this is what I was talking about. Those level 20s are going to start to come through here for the rest of the Ferrymen. Basket, unfortunately, hasn't been able to get too much farm, but Sino is able to finally tick over. That's going to be a big buff to them. If you want to talk about buffs, though, the Eldritch Hounds are about to get a whole lot. Coast has been level 20. See, Protector of the Jungle that's already been built, but Ducky's getting close as well. It just becomes the question of how good their siege will be, especially if Oath is split pushing, because we've seen it time and time again. Sino does not win this 1v1. It's just impossible for him to try and stand near Oath. If he gets blinked on in the minion's tank, I mean, you can't even ult away in time. The crits will come through from the Regurgitate, and Sino's not going to be able to do anything. So you might have to send Baskin in to try and defend against Oath. And then you're losing one of your greatest engage tools, one of your tankiest targets underneath the Phoenix. Doesn't bode well for the defense here from the Styx Ferrymen.
Styx Ferrymen down now. 6,000 gold. It was a 5K lead for the Eldritch Hounds. A couple of shutdown kills go through. Coast dies, Oath dies. It spikes all the way back down to about 2,000 up for the Eldritch Hounds. And now it's climbed its way back up to about a 6K. For the Eldritch Hounds, they continue their push up. Only one tower left standing on the map. Still a minute and 20 to play with the Fire Giant buff. Ducky will tank up the tower, so if a Porsche Coast can knock this one away. Not even necessary for the minions to get there to deal the insane amount of damage that Coast has already been dealing this game. And now the Eldritch Hounds can start their push up towards the Phoenix. Ducky channeling ultimate, but it's just Ducky going this time through. Doesn't even have a minion in the wave with him this time. Just trying to horn anything, bait out anything they can. It's an ultimate from Aurora, an apple from Benny Q. Paul barely lives through the end of the apple, but it's a left side Phoenix down, and the Eldritch Hounds may continue their push or may try and find a pick.
Looks like they're going to retreat here. The Styx Ferrymen didn't use too much. They still have Baskin, Paul, and Cyclone Spin's ultimates, whereas the Eldritch Hounds use just about everything to make sure that left Phoenix goes down. Smart call. The Hounds are going to play this one slow. They've got regen. There's no reason why they can't just heal up here. But Sino doesn't have ultimate. He does have blink. It's really difficult for Thanatos to get value underneath a Phoenix siege like this without that ult. And it seems like the Eldritch Hounds can play this one as slow as they want. There's no reason why they can't stall for ults to come back up. They will lose Fire Giant in 13 seconds. But do you even have to go in is the question. They feel confident enough to do so. Just to drop a Runic Bomb and not get any value by there from Oath. And it looks like that's the end of the Fire Giant siege here for the Hounds. One Phoenix on left, all towers taken off the map. And now they get to set up for another Fire Giant, which will be spawning in here shortly in about 50 seconds.
So Styx Ferrymen pushing up the left side of the map, seeing if they can find any scrap of farm within their jungle. They get the chest camp, they're able to get the purple buff, and shield buff as well, but that's not a significant amount of gold, especially when it's being split between 5 players. The Styx Ferrymen may just be going for any kind of pick that they can, spot out anybody inside of the jungle. Coast, I don't even think he's aware that there are 5 people around him. One's going to give up chase, but Cyno up to the sky. The execute is there. Coast has got to Aegis out, and he does do just that. Cyno, though, with the follow-up damage is there. He will go down in a 1-for-1 trade. But picking off a porous Coast, a start for the Ferrymen to try and climb back in.
Certainly is, but it looks like the Hounds want to try and chase down. How much potential do they have? Of course, Ducky's got ultimate. He could bring in the squad. But without your jungler having ultimate, how much damage do you want to go for here? Quig does ult in. They do want to fight. Paul's got ultimate as well, but he hasn't went into it yet.
He stuns 2 with that wall, but doesn't have the follow-up after. Instead, it's all turned back to Quig. The golden apple just misses it. Tags Paul as he goes up into the house. The landfall misses, but Baskin got clipped by that apple, and he'll go down at the end from the explosion. And now it's Ducky low, Quig low, Aurora taking up as much as he can, but he's just not getting return fire help that Paul needs to pump back through. The Styx Ferrymen, they lose out in the 2-for-1 at the end of the day.
They do, which means the Hounds go back to base and start heading towards the Fire Giant. That is the immediate call. And I love the play to pick out Coast, but it's just so hard to chase down Hachiman. They had to use so much of their utility just to make sure that he went down. And perfectly timed relics means that Cyno was guaranteed trading, and then the Styx Ferrymen had to overcommit. They had to try and retreat into the Eldritch Hounds, who had so much chase down potential. A good blink from Quig pretty much guaranteed that someone was dying. And unfortunately for the Ferrymen, it's Baskin. He will have his teleport up as Paul gets stuck for a second, but doesn't get stunned out because his beads were channeled. So the Styx Ferrymen will have all 5 back up for this Fire Giant fight. Cyclone ults just to stall out. And the Hounds should be able to start up this Fire Giant. Not enhanced yet. A minute and 10 seconds will do it. Will the Hounds start and wait, or they just look for another pick?
Aurora's been putting himself in such precarious spots so many times this game with such odd pathing by him. He's bailed out this time. Half HP, has to go back to base and resustain. Meanwhile, the Eldritch Hounds, they can do so to the luxury of having Ducky on their team with this horse. Fire Giant started. No one on the Ferrymen can take this one except for maybe Baskin with a stray boulder from downtown, but he's too far away to try and get that one through. And the Eldritch Hounds get fire on all 5.
Yeah, my guess was Baskin's play was, hey, I'm going to stand here, and if they can try and stall for EFG. If they don't, we're going to let it go through. Not as important, but if they do, I'm going to walk up and throw a boulder just to force them to get a regular Fire Giant instead. Cyno's going to clear the last of the fire waves. There's going to be 2 more. But look at Oath. He is not letting this Thanatos clear for free. In fact, he's going to blink in. I think he'll be able to stop him here, but Cyno might have just enough time. And he will. Oath realized it. He said, hey, if you go for the next wave, I'm going to kill you. If you don't, you get to back with your life, but someone still will have to go over to the left side of the map to clear out 1 more wave of those fire minions.
Yeah, fire on left will be a threat. There's a 4 stack on the right side, only Oath to the mid. At least Cyno would have to deal with him. Baskin's been a key player for the Ferrymen to finding players out of position, getting these pickups, getting those pushes. Aurora's going to start with a pull on towards Benny. Apple goes through. It tags Paul. Paul used the Aegis to mute out the last half of the damage, but Oath has found a solo pick onto Cyno. A right side Phoenix, a mid Phoenix, another kill onto Baskin as he's got nowhere to go. The Eldritch Hounds will not go down in 3 so easily. Their fight back against the Ferrymen may just net them up at least game 3 of this set.
It should. Oath should always win that 1v1. Once again, there's no reason Cyno should be defending up against a Thanatos, or with a Thanatos. It just does not work out. That Phoenix was dead from the start. Baskin, unfortunately, cannot stand at the forefront of this fight once his team leaves him. And that means it's 3 Ferrymen to try and keep this Titan alive. There's not any ultimates, but they do have the shielding from Ducky, and they're heading in. Benny Q doesn't take it, though. He's so weak.
Ducky goes in by himself, pulled back by Aurora, but the wall bails him out. And the landfall pulls Ducky back, but he's on the right side of the wall, so he'll be able to walk back through. The Styx Ferrymen defend on base, all ultimates used by the remaining members of the Ferrymen who are alive. And that's just enough to push the Eldritch Hounds away from the base.
We've seen a couple 3 Phoenix down comebacks already, but it's not looking too good. Sino, once again, does not have the DPS to try and stand up against Oath, which means that someone has to deal with the Bakasura. Cyclone Spin's not building crit. Baskin's not tanky enough. I'm not seeing anyone but Paul who can stand there, and if Paul's dash gets crippled out, he's guaranteed dead as well. There's a reason that Oath is 12-2. He is an absolute menace on the map currently, and if anyone sees him alone in the jungle, let alone underneath the Phoenix, there's just no way they can try and keep up with him. He just does too much damage. Remember, that wasn't even enhanced. This Fire Giant is just a regular Fire Giant until the next one. If that's how the Siege goes with a regular Fire Giant, enhanced would just be GG, J-Mac.
I just got to reiterate the path that Oath has taken this game. Dies to first blood at the very beginning of the game, gets 7 in a row, then falls down.
Gets shut down by Paul.
Gets shut down. And then comes right back after 7-1, now going to 7-2, and it's gone 5 in a row immediately after that. You cannot keep Oath out whenever he gets onto a tear like this. It happened with the Ao Kuang. It's happening with the Bakasura. He's becoming a problem.
I think he is a problem.
He is. You know what? That's fair. He's not becoming one. He just is a problem, and someone's got to deal with it.
That's what I'm saying. I do not believe they have the answers. Unless Paul's able to find some good poke, force him out instead of just getting all in, and then Sino chases him down with the hovering death. Even that seems like a pipe dream. Again, all 3 Phoenixes down. The Styx Ferrymen are not going to be leaving their base anytime soon. And now you have to worry about, hey, where's Ducky? Is he flying someone in? Are they going above us? If we step up to EFG, which there's no way they could, but if they did, will he just fly the whole enemy team into our Titan room? All of those are an issue. An elixir of power for Oath. If you thought he was chunking before, 3K pot for Oath and Coast. Just guarantees that they are going to continue to do big damage numbers to the front, the back, just about everyone on the side of the Styx Ferrymen. EFG finally drops down, and they siege forward. How's this going to work? Push in slowly, grab the Phoenixes one more time, because right and mid will come up here shortly. We've seen a lot of Horus plays, and we've seen a lot of miscommunication with those Horus plays. It's got to be full commit to going in, or full commit to not going in. And it seems like so far, the Hounds are stepping up slowly. Oath will be in mid, just looking for anyone to walk forward. Anyone that's not Baskin that steps into that mid Phoenix or Aurora is going to get blinked on.
Oath clearing out the minions. Left side starting to get some. Pushing up towards the Titan, but not quite in the base yet. Oath will keep the mid one alive while the rest of the team works towards right side Phoenix. That one respawns and is immediately gone. 2 autos from Coast do the job there. Oath is waiting for the bird in mid, and it'll be very similar. Couple autos from Oath. 1, 2, 3. Bird down once more. Left side will respawn shortly, but has fire minions pushing up in that wave. The Eldritch Hounds are taking so much time to make their decision.
Going for the end.
Ducky goes in by himself this time. No follow-up from the Eldritch Hounds yet. Ducky taking a little bit of damage as Paul chunks away at the carries. Coast hit by damage from Paul, but he's able to sustain himself back up for the time being. Hounds playing patient.
They are playing patient. It was just Ducky, which means the rest of the Hounds did not feel like the call was worth it, or we're just trying to see what they could bait out. Coast does take a bit of damage here. That left side bird, once again, goes down, but the Hounds have not made a call to all in. They are playing this slow. They want poke, or they want Oath to try and get to the backline for free. This Titan has to drop. You don't have to get any kills, you just have to kill the Titan. But with how much damage the Styx Ferrymen still have, it's not easy to just ignore the Hounds and just say, hey, we're going to fight. You have to look and see how much damage can be done. Once again, Ducky pulls, and Titan starts to get hit.
Quinn goes in. Oh, Sino is dead before the battle even starts, and Cyclone forced into the fountain. Double push by Baskin. Ducky and Quig are both falling low. The Titan is nearly gone, but Oath picks up the double kill, and the Titan, the Eldritch Hounds, will not go down in 3. You got to take them the full distance. It's going to game 4.
It is off a great performance. I think Benny Q realized pretty early on, hey, Paul is a problem. So I'm going to focus him with this apple. And you noticed every time the Discordia ulted at the beginning of the fight, it was looking for Paul. Whether it clipped him during the ult, whether it clipped him before the ult, I think that was a big decision maker, because once that started happening, Paul was like not the driving force of the Ferryman anymore. He could stay in the backline, he could do some damage, but that was really what was keeping them alive. Oath was already running the show. Of course, Cyclone Spin fell so far behind, and Paul was 4-0 at that point. Once the apple started hitting him consistently, there was really nothing else the Ferryman could do.
Yeah, it also just feels like the change up back to the crit style build on the Baka worked so well for him, because Baskin's the only one who built any kind of way to deal with that. The Eldritch Hounds, they keep this set alive for themselves. They still got to do 2 more in order to win this one out. We're going to game 4. It can be right after this break.
Keeping me all night. 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 All night.